This guy was getting punched repeatedly in the face, but he didn't even react. He maintained a silent, emotionless posture. In this damn world, money is everything. The main character, Park Han-joon, once had a glorious past. He fought alongside Kim Cheon-soo, the leader of the notorious high school gang, Nexus, when he thought he had won the fight. The Nexus gang sued him. He lost the case due to manipulated evidence. As a result, to pay the settlement fee, his father had to sell the gym that he had saved up his whole life to get. However, his father didn't blame him at all. From then on, Park Han-joon swore he would never fight again because he realized that without money, winning is the same as losing. Since then, he lived a submissive life at school. But because of that, all the scumbags took the opportunity to walk all over him. The most prominent one was the self-proclaimed Director Choi. His business was booming, so he used his money to bully the main character. This guy might be ugly, but he was also rich. He had a lot of girls following him. At school, Director Choi feared nothing and no one. He was confident because he had bribed everyone, so he could punch the main character's face in whenever he wanted. As Park Han-joon was walking home from school, he was dragged into an alley by some street thugs. With a bit of money and beaten up, they took turns stomping on him. He remained indifferent, letting them hit him. The other guy, emboldened, grabbed a bat and beat him relentlessly on the head. After their arms got tired and the bat broke, they threw the bat down and took off. Just then, a blond young man, who had witnessed the whole thing, couldn't understand it. He sat down next to Park Han-joon and asked if he wanted to get compensation money, or if he was afraid of having to pay it. Why else would he let himself be beaten to an inch of his life? Without fighting back, the blond man poured a pile of money from his bag and told him, "This pile of money is enough for any law firm with plenty to spare. If you're not going to sue, you can beat them up and use this as settlement money. That's fine too." Park Han-joon, confused, glanced at the blond man and asked, "Who are you?" The blond man replied casually, "I'm the one who wants to break Kim Cheon-soo's neck." Park Han-joon fell silent. He got up from the ground and smashed the faces of the three thugs who had just beaten him. After they were all down, Park Han-joon followed the blond man. The two had a talk in a room high up in a tall building. The blond man held up his phone and introduced himself. He was Oh Jun-gu, chairman of the Aji Group, the youngest chaebol in South Korea. A man so rich his sneeze was worth 10 million won. The blond man continued, rambling on. That Kim Cheon-soo guy, whom he utterly despised, was now living a luxurious life. He was well-connected, a professional gamer, with outstanding looks and abilities. The brightest pro gamer in South Korea. Just hearing it made his blood boil. Now, that Kim Cheon-soo was gathering kids and doing gangster-like things, terrifying those who crossed him and turning them into mindless idiots. For Oh Jun-gu, taking down Kim Cheon-soo in the outside world would be no problem at all, but he didn't want it to be that easy. What he wanted was to do it their way, the dirty, vile way, to stomp all over their lives. Oh Jun-gu said that from now on, for the necessary expenses related to catching Kim Cheon-soo, to the living expenses for Park Han-joon, he would pay for everything, including his father's gym. In return, Oh Jun-gu needed Park Han-joon's fists. Park Han-joon asked Oh Jun-gu why he hated Kim Cheon-soo so much, but he didn't answer. You'll find out later. After that, Park Han-joon returned to school. Now that he had Oh Jun-gu behind him, money was no object. He pushed open the classroom door and, without hesitation, punched the boastful Director Choi straight in the face. Park Han-joon realized that in this world, money is everything. Honor, connections, quality of life. Money can buy it all. Money is God. Director Choi was being pummeled by Park Han-joon. Before, he was a real fighter himself. He never thought anyone was stronger than him. Until he met Park Han-joon. That's when he felt true frustration. Back then, Park Han-joon was too strong. 100 fights, 100 absolute victories. No normal person could be like that. Only a beast could. When Park Han-joon was being tormented by Kim Cheon-soo because of money, Director Choi realized the importance of money. He opened a shopping center and forced the kids to buy from it. Director Choi made a lot of money and was able to crush Park Han-joon under his foot. Director Choi was on top of the world again. But how the hell was he now being beaten to a pulp by Park Han-joon? Beaten so badly, he couldn't even fight back. Beaten so miserably. All eyes were on him as if he were punching bag. It was so fucking embarrassing. He tried to call his fair weather friends, but no, none of them would step up to help him. Every single one of them pretended to be deaf and dumb. Director Choi continued to be beaten by Park Han-joon. He had never felt so much pain. It felt like he was about to die. Director Choi pushed himself up, trying to run out of the classroom. He couldn't accept it. For the past 2 years, Park Han-joon was nothing more than a scarecrow for people to trample on. Director Choi ran for his life to find Park Sung-yoon, a meathead who would do anything for money. He told Park Sung-yoon that if he could take down Park Han-joon, he would pay him $1 million. Park Sung-yoon haggled for $2 million. Although Director Choi was pained to part with the money, he had to accept for his own safety. Park Sung-yoon dropped the weights to the ground. He advanced towards Park Han-joon, grinning as he explained, "I need a lot of money for the upcoming physical fitness exam, so I don't have a choice." Then, Park Han-joon pulled out a wad of cash. He told him to take it and get lost. With a fitness exam coming up, you shouldn't do anything foolish. Park Sung-yoon took the wad of cash, stepped aside, and stayed out of it. Director Choi screamed in fear. He was thrown straight out the door by Park Han-joon, shattering glass. Just then, the principal walked by. He flew into a rage and confronted Park Han-joon. He called them both to his office for a talk. He chewed Park Han-joon out, saying how back when he was a freshman, he had been lenient and not expelled him. This time, he wouldn't let him off so easily. Director Choi smugly tilted his chin to the sky and even gave Park Han-joon the finger to taunt him. He paid no attention to the principal's words. He leaned forward and punched Director Choi in the face again. The principal was seeing red with anger. He tried to stop him, but couldn't. Just then, someone else walked in. He told Park Han-joon to stop. He introduced himself as Kim Byung-gon, a lawyer at KR Law Firm, one of the 3 largest law firms in South Korea. After the lawyer finished speaking with the principal was bowing and scraping like a dog, fawning over Park Han-joon, and then immediately expelled Director Choi. Afterward, Park Han-joon was talking with Oh Jun-gu again. He said dealing with that principal was too easy. He had a lot of dirt on the shady things that old man had done. He just threatened him a little, and the old man backed right off. Another thing was to send Director Choi to a juvenile detention center. That would make things more convenient later. And if Director Choi went to juvie, the principal would also go to prison for what he did, which was tax evasion and embezzling public funds. At that point, Park Han-joon would be able to live carefreely after such a long time of enduring. But that was for later. For now, Oh Jun-gu had another job he needed Park Han-joon to do. Director Choi, furious, slammed the table and chairs. He wasn't going to let it go like that. The next day, Director Choi, dressed secretively, went to a tenement building. He knocked on a door. The guy inside opened it and invited him in. Inside, they were educating another guy. The leader was Hwang Jin-sung, leader of the thugs from the BMO building. The guy being beaten was probably also hired by Director Choi. He was beaten to a pulp. Hwang Jin-sung told his underlings to clean up the scene and welcome the guests. Director Choi got straight to the point. He wanted to commission another job. He offered $10 million. Hwang Jin's underlings' eyes lit up at the sight of the money. Hwang Jin hit him on the head with a club, telling his underling to shut up. How embarrassing. After hearing Director Choi's request, Hwang Jin declared, "You psycho. Are you high or something, asking me to take care of Park Han-joon for $10 million? You can't deal with that guy normally." Director Choi corrected himself. "The advance is $10 million. If you succeed, I'll pay double that as a bonus." Hwang Jin didn't hesitate anymore and sealed the deal. Today, Oh Jun-gu entered his house and greeted cheerfully as usual. But in reality, there was no one in the house. He had been monologuing to the photo on the table. The thought of it made him bitter. It had been 2 years since that day. He could never forget. After sitting for a while, Oh Jun-gu stood up again. "I probably won't be back for a while, because it's about to get very busy." Oh Jun-gu stepped outside. His subordinate reported that Director Choi had made a move. Oh Jun-gu wasn't very surprised. He told his subordinate to proceed as he had planned. At Park Han-joon's house, his father received a call with a job offer at a gym with a decent salary. He was overjoyed and rushed to show his son. Park Han-joon, however, wasn't surprised at all. He stood up to go out, saying he was going to train a bit. As he went down the stairs, he received a call from Oh Jun-gu. He informed him that Director Choi had hired some thugs to beat him up. Park Han-joon wasn't the least bit worried. He told Oh Jun-gu not to bother calling, because they were already here. Hwang Jin-sung and his underlings arrogantly smirked as they greeted Park Han-joon. Before he could reply, from a distance, Hwang Jin's underling drove a truck straight towards Park Han-joon. Park Han-joon charged straight at the truck, kicking the windshield. He rolled over the roof and fell to the ground, his head bleeding. Hwang's underlings thought the job was done. The incident freaked them out, but it wasn't that simple. Park Han-joon got up from the ground. He stared daggers at Hwang Jin's crew. "You've pissed me off now, you bastards." Park Han-joon was covered in blood, which was dripping down. Just then, some residents looked out and started gossiping. Hwang's crew had no choice but to get in the car and retreat. Before leaving, they didn't forget to say they'd see Park Han-joon again, but he didn't want to let it go like that. Park Han-joon, running at the speed of the Flash, chased after the car. Hwang's underlings in the car were still very cocky. They gave him a friendly middle finger. However, their bragging didn't even last 3 seconds. Park Han-joon was already charging and closing in on the car. He jumped and clung to the roof. The underlings in the car were terrified. Park Han-joon raised his hand and smashed the car window. He directly grabbed one guy by the collar and dragged him out of the car. The remaining underling panicked and told Hwang. But Hwang, unconcerned, told the driver to just keep going. The car disappeared from sight. The underling who had just been pulled out was just coming to his senses. He opened his eyes and saw the main character's friendly face, and he almost pissed his pants. Park Han-joon asked him where the others went, but the underling tried to hide it, saying he didn't know. The words had barely left his mouth before Park Han-joon punched him square in the face. The underling trembled with fear, but was still stubborn and wouldn't talk. The result was getting beaten like a dog. Meanwhile, Hwang and his underlings returned to their base to party and drink. In contrast to Hwang Jin's crew, Director Choi looked like he was at a funeral. What the hell was the point of being excited when they couldn't even catch Park Han-joon? Even if you get paid up front, you still have to finish the job, right? More importantly, if right now Park Han-joon chased him down, how would they fight him? Hwang's men fell silent. Hwang put his arm around Director Choi to comfort him, telling him not to get angry over such trivial matters. He smashed a glass and shoved it in Director Choi's face, gently explaining, "Patience, my friend, patience. Why are you getting so worked up? You can't use a chicken knife to hunt a tiger. At least for now, you can't catch Park Han-joon." Hwang had already drafted a beautiful script to eliminate both Park Han-joon and the Bunsen dogs. In a month or two, they would torture them to hell and back. That would be the chance to kill Park Han-joon. As he was bullshitting enthusiastically, there was a sudden knock on the door. The iron door was hit once and dented. It was hit again, and the dent got deeper. Hwang sent an underling to check. He looked through the peephole and saw Park Han-joon. The underling jumped back in shock. The rest of the crew quickly scrambled to get their weapons. Hwang, however, wasn't the least bit worried. He figured Park Han-joon couldn't break down the iron door, so he just ignored it. After a moment, the noise outside the door went quiet. They thought Park Han-joon was gone. But surprise, who would have thought the main character would come in through the balcony? He smashed the glass door and charged in. Hwang was frozen. What the hell? This is the 3rd floor. How'd he get up here? Though outnumbered, Park Han-joon, with a few punches, took down all the underlings. Hwang's younger sibling. Seeing this, Director Choi gritted his teeth in frustration. For fuck's sake, I'm screwed. No wonder I had a bad feeling. He glanced at Hwang Jin, but the guy didn't look scared at all. Director Choi broke into a cold sweat but tried to reassure himself. These guys could easily deal with Park Se-jong, so they're definitely no pushovers. To have survived this long, they must be something else. The 3 guys Park Han-joon just took down must have been careless. If these guys play their cards right, they should have more than enough power to snap Park Han-joon's neck. Hwang Jin ordered his remaining underlings to move forward and get him. The underlings charged forward with their weapons. Park Han-joon acrobatically dodged all their attacks, then grabbed one of them by the head and slammed him to the ground. The guy used a dirty trick, holding Park Han-joon's arm tightly, so he couldn't move. Another guy seized the opportunity, swinging a bat straight at his head. But it was the bat that broke, not Park Han-joon's head. He turned to glare at the guy who hit him, then threw him straight out the window. The man went into a free fall to the ground below. Just then, a motorcycle passed by and stopped. A beautiful young woman got off the bike. The goon of Hwang's, who was just thrown out the window, was severely injured and couldn't move. He dazedly looked at the girl, as if he were seeing heaven. The girl approached and asked him, "Is Park Han-joon up there?" The goon, smitten, honestly answered whatever the girl asked. As soon as he finished speaking, the girl slammed her helmet down on his head with a thud, knocking him unconscious. Afterward, the girl sat on her motorcycle, took out her phone, and called Oh Jung-gu, informing him that Park Han-joon was going berserk and wrecking someone's house. Oh Jung-gu asked where she was. The girl playfully delayed her answer, still wondering which of the two handbags she saw she should buy. Oh Jun-gu was speechless. He said he would send the money. The girl, delighted, immediately told Oh Jun-gu the address. Inside, after an intense fight, Director Choi had also been beaten toothless. Hong Jin had to admit defeat. He offered a token apology, but he was still extremely arrogant. Park Han-jun hadn't laid a finger on him yet. He must want something from him. Park Han-jun approached Hong. I don't need a damn thing from you. He grabbed Hong by the throat and lifted him up. I'm going to fucking kill you. No more fucking talk. Hong, choked to the point of suffocation, tried to fight back, bringing a club down on Park Han-jun's head, but he blocked it and tossed Hong into a corner like a sack of trash. Then, Park Han-jun punched him in the face repeatedly. Just then, a man came in trembling from outside, with his eyes shut tight and tears streaming down his face. He ran to grab Park Han-jun's arm, begging him to stop fighting. If you're going to fight, take it outside. Why do you have to wreck my house? It's hard enough living here alone without parents. These damn gangsters came to take over my house and cause trouble, and now the madman shows up to smash the whole place to bits. The man cried his heart out. At the same time, Oh Jun-gu opened the iron door and entered the house, which looked like a junkyard. The homeowner, trembling, pointed at Oh Jun-gu and asked who he was. Are you here to wreck my house even more? Oh Jun-gu introduced himself as the chairman of the OG group. He took out a stack of checks from his pocket. He would compensate the homeowner 5 times the cost to repair the entire place. The homeowner happily accepted. Hong, beaten to a pulp, lay in a corner. His eyes were wide with disbelief. How could Park Han-jun be such a monster? How could a normal person be so strong? He had lost from the very beginning. Hong seized the chance to get up and head for the balcony to escape. He jumped straight down from the balcony. But before his feet could touch the ground, Park Han-jun grabbed his shirt and held him back. He looked at him with a murderous glint in his eyes. I'm not done with you yet, you pig. Hong was sweating profusely. If he got pulled back up, he'd be a dead man. He pulled a knife from his clothes and stabbed upwards. But just then, Park Han-jun let go. Hong thought he was saved, but instead, he fell freely to the ground. Hong was seriously injured. He struggled to his feet and hobbled away, step by step. Oh Jun-gu remarked, that guy's will to live is really something. One of Huang's goons in the back burst out laughing like a madman. They're just a bunch of cheap hunting dogs. Hong isn't even the final boss. His father is Director Baek Hai-gun. He has nothing but money. The goon thought Park Han-jun's crew was done for. Oh Jun-gu, however, wasn't worried at all. Oh, I'm so scared. Hong Jin-sung dragged his battered body home. He went inside to meet his father, Hong Harian, the director of the PG Hagon Company. Seeing his son beaten to a pulp, he hurriedly asked what happened. Hong Jin-sung, trembling with rage, asked his father to take care of the 2 bastards. His father patted his shoulder and asked for the reason. Hong Jin-sung replied that he got beaten up by some guys. He couldn't fight back, so he came to tell his dad. His father was pleased. He praised him, saying that after running away from home, he had matured a lot. He advised his son that running home to tattle to his dad in this state wasn't very reliable. He told Hong Jin-sung to raise his head. He stared intently at him, teaching him his first life lesson. When you need help from others, if you show any sign of weakness or insincerity, people won't fucking help you. Only when you've truly decided to risk it all should you come back here. Hong Jin-sung wiped the blood from his face. He looked at his father with extreme seriousness, determined to kill at all costs. His father was satisfied. That's my son. He took out his phone and called Manager Kim, ordering the person on the other end to deal with the 2 bastards. His son mentioned, show those 2 what a festival is like. Hong Jin-sung and his father gathered their crew and went to a construction site. Oh Jun-gu and Park Han-jun were already there. Oh Jun-gu sneered. It's just a squabble between kids, yet so many old geezers have to stick their noses in. Hong Jin-sung's father looked at them condescendingly. Are you tired of living? Oh Jun-gu wasn't worried at all. He smirked defiantly. You think we came here unprepared? Hong Jin-sung's father's jaw dropped when he recognized the person in front of him. He would never in a million years have thought that the person he was about to beat up was the chairman of the OG group. Suddenly, the phone in his pocket buzzed. He took it out to answer, and the person on the other end delivered bad news. All contracts for the second half of the year with the OG group had been canceled. Oh Jun-gu yawned leisurely, looking at Hong Jin-sung's father with utter contempt. He hurriedly knelt down, begging him to spare him just this once. The underlings still didn't understand. why their director was acting like a dog with its tail between its legs. Hong Jin-sung's father yelled at them to shut up. Then he went back to groveling. Oh Jun-gu looked down on him as if he were a pile of trash. He said, "Deal with your lackeys first." A while later, the group moved to another location to talk. Hong Jin-sung's father kept his head bowed to the ground. He begged Oh Jun-gu not to cancel the contract. If his company couldn't ship this consignment, it would be in serious trouble. Oh Jun-gu sat with his legs crossed on a chair, feigning a pensive look. I don't want to do this either, but I have my company's image to maintain. How can I partner with the company of a gangster's father? Hong Jin-sung's father promised to ship his son abroad and ensure he would never return to South Korea. When Hong Jin-sung opened his mouth to argue, his father punched him repeatedly, telling him to shut up. Oh Jun-gu burst out laughing, delighted. He told the father to stop hitting him. Sending Hong Jin-sung abroad won't do any good. Oh Jun-gu said he had a more effective method of teaching. If Hong Jin-sung's father followed it, maybe he wouldn't cancel the contract. Hong Jin-sung's father clung to this like a lifeline. He promised to follow it at all costs. Oh Jun-gu said he had to spend 50 million, one because of Hong Jin-sung. Although that amount was nothing to him, it wasn't a small sum for others. He wanted Hong Jin-sung to work and pay him back that amount himself. Hong Jin-sung's father was flustered. How could his son possibly earn 50 million won on his own? Oh Jun-gu wouldn't take no for an answer, insisting that Hong Jin-sung had to earn the money. Otherwise, it was goodbye for good. Hong Jin-sung muttered, "Son of a bitch," but there was nothing he could do. The next day, he was forced onto a fishing boat to work his ass off. Park Han-jun remarked, "Oh Jun-gu is really vicious." Oh Jun-gu reminded him, "From now on, don't get involved in any more trouble related to money. And don't get hurt either." Park Han-jun retorted that he wasn't hurt. As soon as he said that, the beautiful girl from yesterday pointed directly at a bruise on the back of Park Han-jun's neck. Oh Jun-gu told him to get acquainted with the girl. From now on, the two of them would work together to take down Nexus. The girl is Choi Seol-han, a KOL with 570,000 followers on Instagram. Her job is to provide information. Choi Seol-han sat down in the chair next to Park Han-jun. "I thought you were just some drug-addicted thug, but looking at you now, you're actually handsome." Oh Jun-gu told Choi Seol-han to be serious. "Stop talking nonsense." Choi Seol-han defiantly gave him the middle finger. "Anyway, I prefer thugs and addicts over handsome guys." She leaned back in her chair, ignoring Oh Jun-gu's complaints. She asked him why he called her here. Oh Jun-gu tried to calm himself. He sat in the chair opposite them. "The reason I called you here is to discuss our future plans." Choi Seol-han twirled her hair. "Didn't we already agree to just let Park Han-jun beat them all up? Why are there more plans? What a headache." Oh Jun-gu tossed a file onto the table. "Nexus's scale is not as small as we thought. Park Han-jun can't handle them all by himself. So, I have an idea. To form a team of capable fighters. I've already targeted some potential candidates studying at Dongjin High School who are involved with Nexus." When Park Han-jun heard the name, he immediately thought of Kim Jong-han. Back when he fought Nexus, Kim Jong-han was one of the people who fought by his side until the very end. After that fight, Kim Jong-han suffered a leg injury. He can't even walk properly, but even so, they still need Kim Jong-han. Park Han-jun's expression grew tense. At times like this, one must separate business from personal feelings. At Dongjin High School, a group of delinquents was holding a round-table meeting, sitting together. They were discussing how Director Choi was about to be sent to a juvenile detention center. This would be quite troublesome, because once there, Director Choi would be forced to confess everything. If that happened, in the future, it would be very difficult to collect money anymore. After some discussion, they concluded that the mastermind behind Director Choi's imprisonment was Park Han-jun, the one known as the #1 student at Dongjin High School. Min Jae-chun scowled upon hearing this. Just then, a student burst in with shocking news. Park Han-jun was transferring to their school. The boss tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table. He smirked in surprise. "Well, I'll be damned." And so, Park Han-jun entered the classroom and introduced himself. Right away, he declared he was there to beat up everyone at this Dongjin school. The teacher seemed all too familiar with this situation. He laughed and told him to take the empty seat at the back. The thugs in the back of the class, after hearing that, silently held a grudge against Park Han-jun. He went to the empty seat and sat down. The guy next to him was the #12 ranked fighter at Dongjin School, named Joe Gummin. This guy seemed very arrogant, even though his boss, the top-ranked guy in the school, told him not to mess with Park Han-joon. But he didn't want to listen. He wanted to fight him right now. Jo Gummin then continued to ramble on. He had just transferred here last year, and didn't know much about Park Han-joon, but he had heard of his reputation. He just wanted to see for himself if he lived up to the rumors. He asked him if he wanted to screw the class and fight right here. Park Han-joon glanced at Jo Gummin and didn't bother to reply. The guy, pissed off at being ignored, raised his hand and slapped him across the face. Park Han-joon elbowed the guy in the face, sending him tumbling to the floor. He told him to shut his trap so he could sleep, then slumped back down on his desk. Choi Seol-han and Oh Jung-gu were currently sitting outside the school. She looked at her phone, and the more she thought about it, the more she felt. But he still shouldn't have recruited Kim Jong-hwan. There are other talented, ordinary people. So why choose him? Is it because he feels guilty that his leg was broken? Or is it because he's Park Han-joon's friend? Oh Jung-gu smiled, then took a baseball bat and hit a ball away. The first word that comes to everyone's mind when they hear the name Kim Jong-han is stubbornness. Even though he was just a weak underdog, he stubbornly fought back against Nexus without giving up. But as they say, what's too rigid will break. However, Oh Jung-gu still had faith in Kim Jong-han. For people who have suffered injuries like him, perhaps they won't be as tough as before. But once he's been honed, he'll become a gem. After that, Park Han-joon was walking around the school. A group of thugs stared at him. He had also noticed their movements. In the distance, he saw Kim Jong-han rushing back from an errand, only to be kicked to the ground by a thug. He berated him for being too slow. What the hell took you to get to the cafeteria? More than 5 minutes? I lost my bet big time because of you. That guy beat Kim Jong-han relentlessly. The other street thugs stood to the side, laughing. They half-jokingly told the guy to stop hitting him. If you hit him anymore, Kim Jong-han will become an idiot. The thug didn't listen. He continued to punch Kim Jong-han mercilessly. Park Han-joon slowly approached. Choi Seol-han sat eating snacks. She was starting to understand why Oh Jung-gu wanted to recruit Kim Jong-han. But then again, she thought Park Han-joon wasn't the type to cooperate so easily. She suggested, why not try to solve it with money? Oh Jung-gu put his pen down. If everything could be solved with money, it would be easy. Back when Kim Jong-han fought Nexus, it was simply because Park Han-joon was fighting. Other people would find this ridiculous. Kim Jong-han fought for someone else to the point of breaking his own leg. But the Kim Jong-han he had investigated was the type of person who would stand side by side with his friends. However much his friend was hurt, he considered himself hurt just as much. Truly a miraculous friendship. Kim Jong-han flicked a lighter to light a cigarette, but it wouldn't light. He cursed in frustration and threw the lighter away. The lighter landed at Park Han-joon's feet. Seeing a familiar face, Kim Jong-han didn't react much. He'd recently heard that Park Han-joon came here to crush this school, but he didn't think Park Han-joon could do it. Nexus is much more powerful now than they were before. There's no way Park Han-joon can fight against their numbers and capital. Kim Jong-han stood up from his seat. He bitterly admitted that they had already lost. Everything is over. But Park Han-joon clenched his fist, resolute. This time we will win. But Kim Jong-han had no faith left. He said if he had known he would lose like this, then from the start, he wouldn't have fought them. And thanks to Park Han-joon, I've now become a cripple. Park Han-joon clenched his fists, no longer trying to persuade Kim Jong-han. He would prove it with his actions. The scene of the two old friends talking was seen by the school's top dog. He ordered his underlings to get ready to crush that Park Han-joon guy. Kim Jong-han went to the doctor for a regular checkup. The doctor advised him to keep trying and to have hope. It's very difficult, but delaying it like this won't be good. The doctor advised him to get admitted for surgery soon. I know it's hard to afford the hospital fees, but if you just leave it, that leg will become harder to treat. Kim Jong-han didn't give an answer. He thanked the doctor and left. Outside, it was raining. He walked without any hat or cover. The school's top dog approached him, asking about his chances for surgery and recovery. Kim Jong-han didn't want to answer. It's not like they were close friends or anything. The school's top dog, Min Kyung-joon, leaned close to his ear, asking about what. He saw him talking to Park Han-joon about this afternoon. He wants to know what you said. Min Kyung-joon challenged Kim Jong-han to a one-on-one fight if his leg had recovered. Kim Jong-han didn't even give Min Kyung-joon a second glance. If he wasn't injured, Min Kyung-joon would be no match for him. Min Kyung-joon saw that talking wasn't working. He got pissed off and punched Kim Jong-han in the stomach. He fell to the ground. Min Kyung-jun looked down on him and hurled insults. He warned him to know his place and stop meddling in other people's business. Remember how Park Han-jun had to kneel and beg for mercy before? Don't be a fool and trust in that. The bloody lesson is still there. Min Kyung-jun looked at Kim Jong-han with contempt. Look at your own crippled leg and see where it got you. Was it because of that miraculous brotherhood? Kim Jong-han refused to back down. A bastard like Min Kyung-jun, who betrayed his brothers and Park Han-jun to join those Nexus scumbags, shouldn't act so high and mighty. Min Kyung-jun disagreed. A person has to think of themselves first. You just follow the bigger side. What's wrong with that? He sneered that Kim Jong-han was a fool. Being devoted to your friends gets you absolutely nothing. After saying his piece, Min Kyung-jun turned and left. Kim Jong-han was furious but couldn't say anything. He could only sit silently in the rain, clenching his fists. The next day, it was still raining. Min Kyung-jun's announcement blared from the school speakers. He brought up the story of Park Han-jun confronting Nexus 2 years ago. Now he's here, and no matter how you look at it, he's nothing but a loser. Min Kyung-jun issued a declaration of war and a threat to Park Han-jun, signaling the start of a battle. Min's underlings, after hearing the morning announcement, stood up and stretched. Then they went off together to hunt down Park Han-jun. One by one, they filed into Park Han-jun's classroom. But he mercilessly stomped on them and threw them out the window. Soon, a pile of bodies lay scattered about. Park Han-jun spat on the ground. Let's see who's the one who gets taken down. The others rushed in at once, trying to overwhelm him with numbers. But Park Han-jun knocked it down one by one. One by one they fell, littering the hallway. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-han sat alone in his classroom, a thoughtful and somber expression on his face. Outside, Park Han-jun was still actively fighting them. One after another, they charged, and he threw them aside like rotten meat. Relying on their numbers, they kept charging. They ganged up, grabbing hold of Park Han-jun to attack him. Park Han-jun gritted his teeth, tightened his abs, and clenched his glutes, breaking free from their grip and punching them relentlessly. He took down the whole group in succession. They lay sprawled on the hallway floor. One group after another was waiting. Park Han-jun was showing signs of exhaustion, but the crowd of thugs that came was even larger. There were people above, below, left, and right everywhere. Kim Jong-han watched the stream of people rushing past him and sighed. Park Han-jun is such a fool. Now everything is over. There's no future. Choi Seo-han walked in through the door. She approached Kim Jong-han, introducing herself as Park Han-jun's colleague. She sat in the chair opposite Kim Jong-han and talked about Park Han-jun. She knew that sooner or later, the entire Jongjin school would pounce on Park Han-jun. If I were in that situation, I would run away immediately. But Park Han-jun is different. He chose to fight to the end. The reason is that he wants to tell Kim Jong-han that this time he will win. Hearing this, Kim Jong-han was stirred. He thought back to Park Han-jun's promise of victory. He also remembered Min Kyung-jun's taunts. He hesitated, gripping his knees. Choi Seo-han rested her chin on her hand. You won't regret it, will you, Kim Jong-han? Kim Jong-han gritted his teeth, veins popping on his face. Outside, Park Han-jun was still fighting hard. After a while, he had taken down the thugs blocking his way. Just then, Min Kyung-jun appeared from the top of the stairs. He clapped, sarcastically praising him. As expected of Park Han-jun, just like the old days, taking them all down by himself. But this is as far as you go. Min Kyung-jun smirked contemptuously. Behind him was a group of big shots, a whole lineup of the school's toughest thugs, including Min Kyung-jun. There were 6 of them. Park Han-jun got into a fighting stance. Min Kyung-jun gave a cold laugh and ordered the 5 behind him to advance. Hearing the order, the guys advanced together. But before they could even touch Park Han-jun, the first one got a broom straight to the face. The one who threw the broom was Kim Jong-han. He had decided to fight alongside Park Han-jun, seeing that the newcomer was the cripple. Kim Jong-han, Min Kyung-jun sneered. He paid him no mind. I'll take care of you both at once. Min Kyung-jun's underlings rushed to attack Kim Jong-han. He slammed the broom on the ground, breaking it in two. With a weapon in each hand, he got into a ready stance. Kim Jong-han smashed a guy in the face with a stick. He gritted his teeth, suppressing the pain in his leg, and kicked another one in the stomach. On the other side, Park Han-jun was also fighting fiercely. Soon, Min Kyung-jun's underlings realized they were in deep trouble. Park Han-jun and Kim Jong-han stood shoulder to shoulder. Kim Jong-han quietly apologized to Park Han-jun. He had blamed Park Han-jun for so much in his life, and now he had even insulted Park Han-jun's determination. Kim Jong-han knew it wasn't Park Han-jun's fault. He just wanted someone to blame. While the two were having their heart-to-heart, Min Kyung-jun popped out of nowhere for a sneak attack. Understanding each other, the two simultaneously split up and ran towards the window. Min Kyung-jun was baited into chasing them. Park Han-jun grabbed his shirt and threw him like a sandbag into a room. Kim Jong-han used a rope to lock the door. He would be the one to deal with Min Kyung-jun. Min Kyung-jun didn't understand what this cripple was trying to do. But obviously, he didn't take Kim Jong-han seriously at all. Kim Jong-han gave a sarcastic smirk. A pathetic loner, like Min Kyung-jun, could never understand what I'm doing. Provoked, Min Kyung-jun lost his temper and raised his hand to attack Kim Jong-han. But he jabbed his hand with the stick, making it bleed. Kim Jong-han swung the stick at Min Kyung-jun again. That guy was no pushover. He stubbornly grabbed Kim Jong-han around the waist, making him lose his balance. Min Kyung-jun lifted Kim Jong-han up and threw him back, shattering a glass door. Min Kyung-jun threw another punch, but this time Kim Jong-han dodged it. He dropped the two sticks, took off his outer shirt, and wrapped it around his right hand, then continued to charge and attack. Min Kyung-jun clearly looked down on Kim Jong-han, not taking his actions seriously. Kim Jong-han seized the opportunity to throw the shirt over Min Kyung-jun's head and pound his face relentlessly. Min Kyung-jun managed to grab Kim Jong-han's leg and held on. He used a dirty trick, punching him hard in the knee. Kim Jong-han gritted his teeth in pain. He clutched his crippled leg. Min Kyung-jun glanced at him with contempt. He stood up and turned to leave, not intending to fight anymore. But Kim Jong-han didn't give up. He struggled back to his feet to continue fighting. Min Kyung-jun punched Kim Jong-han repeatedly in the face, but the king of endurance refused to go down. He remained steady on his feet. Min Kyung-jun landed another blow, sending him flying back and breaking a glass door. Kim Jong-han fell face first into the broken glass, but he still got back up. Min Kyung-jun was getting frustrated from all the hitting, especially since Kim Jong-han was like a cockroach that wouldn't die. He raised his fist to punch again. But unexpectedly, Kim Jong-han scratched his face open. His hand was covered in the glass from the floor, so the scratch was more painful than usual. Min Kyung-jun swung his arm to fight back, but Kim Jong-han dodged it. There was no way he would lose to a henchman like Min Kyung-jun. If he lost, what would Park Han-jun think of him? Kim Jong-han used a headbutt, smashing it right into Min Kyung-jun's face. The guy's head was spinning from a blow. Before he could recover, Kim Jong-han landed several more punches. Kim Jong-han channeled all his frustration and bitterness into pummeling Min Kyung-jun's face. Min Kyung-jun lost consciousness and fell to the ground, knocked out. Kim Jong-han's legs were trembling. He opened the door to find that Park Han-jun had already dealt with a small fry outside. Kim Jong-han was unsteady, and Park Han-jun had to support him. The two sworn brothers looked at each other, smiled, and left. Outside the school gates, Chairman Jong-gun saw all the windows on the upper floor were shattered. He had a vague idea of what had happened. He smirked and ordered his underlings to go get Park Han-jun. He would personally break his legs. His underlings were heading up one after another when someone stopped them. The person who arrived was the lawyer, KR. He wasn't afraid at all. Chairman Jong-gun demanded to speak with him. The two sides went into a classroom and sat down to talk. Chairman Jong-gun sat arrogantly, spreading his legs wide. He acted tough, as if he wouldn't compromise in this country of laws. Don't think that just because you have a lot of money, you could go around beating people up. The lawyer threw out a few more suitcases. He didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. Chairman Dong Jian sneered. He signaled his men to check the suitcases. A big corporation really knows how to negotiate. He wouldn't accept anything less than the yellow bills. Chairman Dong Jian's men opened the suitcases. Inside was also yellow, but it was a pile of documents. The lawyer gave the chairman a threatening look. This will be tomorrow's headline. The school's foundation. The Dong Jian Foundation, from covering up school violence and recruiting talented students for fighting to investing in organizing large-scale fights, to illegal land speculation, plus numerous tax issues, and many other crimes. Chairman Dong Jian muttered a curse under his breath. He hated being threatened, Of course, he had also made his own preparations. The chairman's goons pulled out knives and held them to the lawyer's throat. If you can't win with words, you threaten. But the lawyer was completely unfazed. Don't think killing me will end this. If my law firm and the Dong Jian Foundation go head-to-head, who knows who will win? And with an added murder charge, you'll probably be in prison for a long time. Chairman Dong Jian was furious but speechless. He signaled his subordinates to lower their knives. He then asked the lawyer what he wanted. The lawyer smirked. He demanded that chairman, Dong Jian, transfer ownership of this school to them. Mr. Han Jun was at the hospital getting his wounds treated. Choi Seo Han opened her mouth to scold him. Are you even human? To still be in one piece after fighting the entire Dongjian school. Mr. Han Jun retorted, are you crazy? Just then, the doctor came out to report on Kim Jong-han's condition. His condition isn't very good right now. But luckily, the surgery was successful. Mr. Han Jun breathed a sigh of relief. Oh Jun-gu was leisurely sitting in a cafe, scrolling through his phone. He came across news about Dongjian High School. Oh Jun-gu smirked. Just as planned. He stood up, preparing to leave, when he suddenly heard a commotion from the next table. It was the leader of Nestis, Kim Kyol-soo, Oh Jun-gu's unforgettable dear brother, Kim Kyol-soo. Upon seeing Oh Jun-gu, greeted him as if they were close. Oh Jun-gu smirked. He sat down in the chair next to Kim Kyol-soo. The two had a little chat. The me of the past is different now. The past is just the past. Now, Kim Kyol-soo was in a new position. He was just some pathetic gamer, while Oh Jun-gu was a chairman. Oh Jun-gu curled his lip in contempt. But I like to let bygones be bygones. He glared at Kim Kyol-soo, boasting about how he had swallowed up Dongjian. Kim Kyol-soo, on the other hand, showed no reaction. He put down his coffee cup, preparing to leave. Before leaving, he even bowed respectfully to Oh Jun-gu as if he meant it. Oh Jun-gu didn't even bother to react. He left Kim Kyol-soo with a warning, promising that next time they meet, Kim Kyol-soo would find it hard to maintain that expression. After Kim Kyol-soo left, Oh Jun-gu leaned back in his chair and sighed. It's been 2 years, but seeing Kim Kyol-soo's face again, I still can't resist the urge to smash his face in. But this wasn't for nothing. There's no way that bastard Kim Kyol-soo isn't pissed off. Kim Kyol-soo got in his car and left. He looked out the window, watching the sky, the land, the clouds. His subordinate asked him how he planned to deal with Park Han-jun. Kim Kyol-soo said to take it slow, that patience pays off. The biggest war in South Korean history is about to happen in a certain house. A round-table meeting of the Nestis Guild was held. The branch managers of Nestis were gathered here. Today, we've gathered here to discuss the matter of Park Han-jun. Many branch managers didn't seem to like the meeting, to go through all the trouble of coming here, just to talk about one guy. Park Han-jun, the Chungcheong branch manager, burst out laughing. He mocked the Gyeongsang branch manager. You don't know a damn thing. 2 years ago, Park Han-jun was an arrogant bastard who lived in a slum in Seoul. Nestis controlled almost the entire capital, and we were taking over that area too. But any area with Park Han-jun was hard to swallow, so we left it alone. It's embarrassing to admit, but the problem was, when the bastards in other areas saw what Park Han-jun was doing, they got ideas about rising up too. So a lot of trouble started for Nestis. That's why we put all our effort into catching Park Han-jun. But if things had ended, well, we wouldn't be gathered here today. The unimaginable happened. Even though we had more people, he took us down one by one. In fact, Park Han-jun almost managed to overthrow Nestis. That's unbelievable. The Gyeongsang branch manager was skeptical. But unfortunately, it's true. Anyone who's seen Park Han-jun fight would understand. He's a rabid monster. The Gyeongsang branch manager sneered. After hearing the story, he started criticizing them. The other branch managers are just a bunch of useless freeloaders. The other branch managers were annoyed to hear that, but they restrained themselves from punching the guy. Only the Gyeonggi branch manager admitted. I agree we were useless back then. But that was 2 years ago. Nestis, now compared to Park Han-jun, is like comparing an earthworm to the sky. There's no need to worry so much. The other branch managers also didn't seem too concerned. Only the Incheon branch manager remained silent, veins popping on his forehead. He looked extremely pissed off. Just then, the leader of Nestis, Kim Kyol-soo, walked in cheerfully and greeted everyone. He sat down and, without any preamble, got straight to the point. Park Han-jun is back. A war is probably coming, so we have to act. Although I've decided to declare war, It's better to meet and talk in person. That's why I called you all here. The Gyeonggi branch manager spoke up. Being cautious is good, but going as far as war is a bit much. I just heard a school was in the news. So, I don't think making a big scene like that is a good idea. After hearing this, Kim Ki-ol-soo let out a cold laugh, which made the hair on the Gyeonggi branch manager's neck stand up. He didn't dare to say another word. The Incheon branch manager, who had been silent, finally spoke up. He volunteered to handle everything. Kim Ki-ol-soo was pleased that the prey had taken the bait. He put on an act, reminding him, this time will be harder than the last, because Park Han-jun has help now. So you'll need to prepare a lot. The Incheon branch manager couldn't wait. Every time he thought of Park Han-jun, the scar on his forehead would throb. I'm always ready. Kim Ki-ol-soo applauded. He gave the Incheon branch manager the go-ahead. The other branch managers had no further objections. They all unanimously approved. The roundtable meeting quickly concluded. The Incheon branch manager was thrilled. Finally, he had a chance to get revenge on Park Han-jun. Immediately, the Incheon branch manager gathered all his men and announced they were going to take care of Park Han-jun. His men were also very excited to hear this. The next day, Park Han-jun went with Oh Jun-gu to a sealed-off area. Oh Jun-gu pushed open the door and told Park Han-jun to come in. Today, I'm going to tell you a little about myself, like how I made all my money, and by what means, and why I hate that bastard Kim Ki-ol-soo so much. The two went inside the house, sitting opposite each other at the dining table in the kitchen. Oh Jun-gu began to share seriously. First thing, the money I'm using isn't mine. It belongs to the owner of this house we're sitting in. About 2 years ago, I was still a student, just like everyone else. I had a very close friend. We were like brothers, but we often argued. The next day, it was as if nothing had happened. It was a strange friendship. My best friend was passionate about stocks. He studied a lot about it on his own. But after you, Park Han-jun lost in Nestis. Because of that incident, all the leaders in the area were replaced. I also got my ass kicked. After Nestis took over, they started trouble with anyone they didn't like. They disbanded any organizations that existed. But with my personality, I couldn't just let those bastards be. And neither could my best friend. The two of us joined forces to fight back. Although we weren't very good at fighting, we always fought together. It's just that Nestis was a pack of rabid dogs. But those bastards were dirtier. I thought. They burned down my best friend's house. I was so angry I confronted them. But they didn't give a damn. They even insulted my friend. I flew into a rage and fought them, but I couldn't win. They beat me half to death. I blamed myself. Because of my weakness, my best friend died. From then on, I swore to fight against Nestis. I would do anything to wipe them out. I erased all traces of my existence, becoming someone who never existed. I decided to try using my friend's stock account, but when I opened it, to my surprise, the money in it was automatically increasing. A mix of sadness and joy. Many emotions flashed through Oh Jun-gu. If my best friend were still alive now, how happy he would have been. But now, I have no one to share this joy with. At that moment, Oh Jun-gu found his reason to keep living. To use that money to get revenge on Kim Ki-ol-soo. I will use all the money I earn to do that. Park Han-jun didn't understand why Oh Jun-gu was telling him this. Oh Jun-gu's reason was simple. I want you to know everything, so you'll be determined to overthrow Nestis. Oh Jun-gu sat in the car, talking on the phone with Choi Seo-han. He told her he had explained everything. Choi Seo-han seemed to know everything already. She reminded him their next target was Incheon. You need to be careful with that uneducated bunch, so think carefully before you act. Oh Jun-gu glanced around. He smirked. If that uneducated bunch had any sense, they wouldn't act right in the middle of the street like this. Before he could hang up, a group of motorcycles swarmed Oh Jun-gu's car, splashing paint all over it. Oh Jun-gu's driver told him to hold on tight, and started swerving wildly. On the other end of the line, Choi Seo-han yelled worriedly into the phone, asking what was happening, but no one answered. Oh Jun-gu had been knocked unconscious. The Incheon branch manager took his phone and started flirting with Choi Seo-han. The Incheon branch manager and his men have captured Oh Jun-gu. He said into the phone, tell Choi Seo-han to relay a message to Park Han-jun. I'll be waiting at JG Incheon. With that, the guy threw the phone, got in his car, and sped off. Choi Seo-han kept calling, but no one answered. She angrily hung up the phone. Afterwards, Park Han-jun was walking back leisurely, constantly thinking about the earlier conversation with Oh Jun-gu. He became even more determined not to give up. As he was walking, Choi Seo-han sped over in her car and told him to get in quickly. She announced briefly, "Those bastards from Incheon kidnapped Oh Jun-gu." Oh Jun-gu slowly regained consciousness. He looked around to see where he was. A fat guy came up to him, intending to knock him out again. Oh Jun-gu recognized the fat guy. It was Bang Jung, the number 2 in Incheon. He quickly deduced that the scarred-faced guy over there was the Incheon branch manager, Nam In-soo. Oh Jun-gu burst in a manic laughter. He crossed his legs and cursed the Incheon crew. Truly stupid, not thinking at all. Kidnapping the chairman of a large corporation like me to use as a hostage? What a terrible idea. Oh Jun-gu started provoking the Incheon crew. He claimed the Incheon branch was known for being the weakest. Seems like 2 years ago, you guys knelt before Park Han-jun to apologize to him. A bunch of useless losers. Oh Jun-gu spoke with extreme, fearless confidence. The fat guy was about to punch him in the face, but the Incheon branch manager stopped him. He walked up to Oh Jun-gu. He made an excuse for kneeling. "That was just me, not all of Incheon." Oh Jun-gu smirked contemptuously. "Incheon must be so sad, huh?" Incheon was the older brother of the current Incheon branch manager. Back then, he had to kneel and apologize to Park Han-jun for his brother's sake. The fat guy was furious. He grabbed Oh Jun-gu by the collar, about to give him a beating, when suddenly his subordinate ran in from outside to announce that Park Han-jun had arrived. The Incheon branch manager reminded the fat guy not to waste his energy, because a fight was about to break out. The fat guy panted with anger. He picked up Oh Jin-gu's chair and threw it straight at the wall, then stormed out. Oh Jin-gu and his chair were knocked over. He sighed, remarking how rough that fat guy was. The branch manager walked past Oh Jin-gu, telling him to open his eyes and look carefully. The Incheon of today is different. Outside, Choi Seo-han and Park Han-jun were on a motorcycle, swerving and weaving to evade their pursuers. After riding for a while, there was no sign of the group chasing them. They looked around and realized they had arrived. The Incheon crew was already waiting, led by the fat guy. The fat guy scowled, telling the two to follow him inside. This wasn't the place to fight. The battle in Incheon would start soon. The two followed the fat guy inside. Choi Seo-han was chattering nonstop. The fat guy got annoyed and yelled at her to shut up and follow him. "You talk too much." Choi Seo-han smirked and brought up the incident from 2 years ago. Didn't Incheon say back then that if Park Han-jun knelt, they wouldn't fight, but now you can't catch him, so you're this eager. Just like a bunch of bastards, huh? The fat guy's veins bulged with anger. He glared menacingly at Choi Seo-han, intending to hit her. Park Han-jun stood in front of her. He agreed that Choi Seo-han was right. The fat guy couldn't take it anymore. He clenched his fist, raised it to punch, and started the fight right there, not even waiting to get to the branch manager. The fat guy was an elite child, beyond common sense since birth. After puberty, he was 2.17 meters tall and weighed 243 kilograms. Everyone called him the crispy fried pork, but this was the first time since he was born that the fat guy flew. And he flew by being kicked into the sky by Park Han-jun, then rolling around on the ground. The fat guy lay motionless, not making a sound. Park Han-jun walked in confidently. Inside, a crowd of Incheon members surrounded them. Oh Jin-gu toppled over in the distance, shouted for Park Han-jun to get this chair off him. "My legs are getting tired." The Incheon branch manager took off his jacket. He told his underlings to stand back so he could fight one-on-one. Park Han-jun thought for a moment and recognized the guy in front of him. He was the younger brother of Man-soo, who had knelt and begged him years ago. The Incheon branch manager, feeling bitter, jabbed Park Han-jun's shoulder with lightning speed, but he didn't even react. The Incheon branch manager got into a fighting stance. His movements were very fast, but not so fast that Park Han-jun couldn't dodge. He calmly dodged the blows, but unexpectedly, the other guy punched him in the face. Today, the Incheon branch manager's determination was immense. He would repay the grudge from 2 years ago today. He swung his fists, attacking Park Han-jun, but he dodged the man attacking him. After a series of dodges, the Incheon branch manager landed another blow on Park Han-jun's face, forcing him back a few steps. The Incheon branch manager approached Park Han-jun with an extremely arrogant demeanor. "Get up and keep fighting." After kneeling before Park Han-jun and Incheon, the branch manager hadn't rested for a single second. To be precise, He was so humiliated that he couldn't stop training. Incheon once prided itself on having the strongest fists in the country, but it was truly shameful to kneel without even fighting a single battle. Before Park Han-joon, even though he was praised as a boxing prodigy, he was still nothing compared to Park Han-joon. After that, the Incheon branch manager gave up boxing because what he needed wasn't boxing, but brawling. He then went around picking fights for 2 years. He wrecked 27 schools, smashed 13 gyms, and caused 4 organizations to disband. He grew stronger through countless real fights, all for the sake of getting revenge on Park Han-joon. But what the hell is happening now? If Park Han-joon is this weak, then the humiliation Incheon suffered because of him will only make them look even more pathetic. Park Han-joon was relentlessly beaten by the branch manager of Incheon. Oh Jin-gu and Choi Seo-han watched the situation from the sidelines. Before Oh Jin-gu recruited Park Han-joon, he had done some research and discovered a surprising fact. Although Park Han-joon was the son of a gym owner, apart from physical training, he had never formally learned any martial art. Physical strength, innate senses, and adaptability. With just those things, he threw Nexus into chaos. After grasping his opponent's moves, that's when Park Han-joon would turn the tables. The problem was the Incheon branch manager. Nam In-soo also understood this, so he kept changing his attack patterns. The wounds Nam In-soo inflicted with gloves were different from those caused by bare hands. A pro boxer's bare-knuckle punch is enough to tear human flesh. Nam In-soo was using this to prepare for the next round. He was trying to inflict more damage on Park Han-joon. The fight continued, with Park Han-joon still on the defensive. Nam In-soo was pummeling him. Suddenly, Park Han-joon grabbed Nam In-soo around the waist. He gained momentum and pushed backwards. Nam In-soo was also surprised by Park Han-joon's insane strength. Despite the weight he was putting on him and all the injuries he had inflicted, Park Han-joon still had the strength to push him like this. Nam In-soo smirked. If this continued, he would be pushed into the wall. But that was only if he used boxing. He was also a street fighter. Nam In-soo kneed Park Han-joon in the stomach and threw him down. Behind him, Nam In-soo got up again and took his stance. This is just the first round. He knew Park Han-joon wouldn't be knocked out by just that. But his eye was bleeding. The blood would gradually obscure his vision. He would start to lose his balance now. Nam In-soo lunged forward, throwing a punch at Park Han-joon. But this time he dodged it. Oh Jin-gu, standing outside, grinned with delight. That's it. Nam In-soo had the tables turned on him and got punched square in the jaw. Nam In-soo couldn't believe it. Park Han-joon had just dodged his punch. Nam In-soo was hit with several more consecutive punches and was gradually pushed back. Nam In-soo was the fastest among the strongest. But Park Han-joon was a monster among monsters. Although Park Han-joon's speed was completely different from Nam In-soo's, his body had started to get used to it. He could fight freely and switch to in-fighting boxing, closing the distance and matching Nam In-soo's speed. Nam In-soo quickly realized that. Every time he attacked Park Han-joon, he could gauge the distance perfectly. All the desperate efforts he had put into training until now were already being completely nullified by Park Han-joon. This was the difference between someone with talent and someone with nothing. But Nam In-soo was stubborn and didn't give up. He dodged Park Han-joon's fists, moved to his side, and relentlessly attacked with hooks. However, it wasn't very effective against Park Han-joon now. Nam In-soo was too slow. He got his face smashed by a punch. As Nam In-soo was relentlessly punched, he thought about the past. His older brother had promised to do anything to protect everyone. Even though the act of kneeling was extremely humiliating, he still did it. Back then, in his youthful recklessness, he was about to fight Park Han-joon one-on-one, but was stopped. But today, fighting Park Han-joon one-on-one, he was completely defeated. Blood trickled from Nam In-soo's old scar. He realized, perhaps the former leader of Incheon had foreseen this. Facing Park Han-joon was truly a haunting experience. Nam In-soo hesitated, not daring to attack anymore. He really wanted to run away now. But if he did, the rest of his crew would be finished. Just then, the fat guy and his underlings were about to rush and attack Park Han-joon. Nam In-soo shouted for them to stop. Nam In-soo knelt and bowed his head before Park Han-joon, admitting defeat. Nam In-soo had once felt so ashamed. The knees of the man he had looked up to had bent so easily, but now he thought he finally understood. The reason the former leader of Incheon felt ashamed He was lonely, with no one to understand the weight on those two knees. It wasn't Park Han-joon who disrespected his brother. Mansu's knees, it was them. The fat guy and the underlings kept telling Nam In-soo to get up. Don't give up. Oh Jin-gu stepped in to mediate. He explained to these pig brains that Nam In-soo was doing this for everyone. Don't think that killing Park Han-joon means you've won. In a fight, the one who can protect more is the one who truly wins. Oh Jin-gu approached and told Nam In-soo to raise his head. He spit on his own fist and then punched Nam In-soo on the head. After that, Oh Jin-gu stood up and waved his hand. That punch was revenge for kidnapping me. Oh Jin-gu also knew that Nam In-soo was trying to bear the things he was trying to cast aside. And in Incheon, many people were in debt to Nexus. Everyone had their own families and problems to deal with. I came to Incheon. I've paid off all the money you Incheon folks owed Nexus. The Incheon crew was stunned. It wasn't until Oh Jin-gu was getting into the car that they asked him why he paid off their debt. Oh Jin-gu never does anything for free. He told the Incheon crew to check their messages. The Technical Academy has already sent you a message. I've also paid all your tuition fees. Study hard there, then work like dogs to pay me back. I'm leaving Han. Oh Jin-gu knew that the Incheon crew was currently earning money directly and contributing it to Nexus. He heard they would do anything, from delivery jobs to construction work, whenever he saw them struggling, but still trying their best. He felt he should help them. Nam In-soo gritted his teeth. He and his underlings bowed their heads to thank Oh Jin-gu. Thanks to him, he could live on. He swore he would definitely repay this debt of gratitude to Oh Jin-gu. Oh Jin-gu's group and Park Han-joon got in the car and left. Nam In-soo turned to his underlings and bowed in apology for shaming them. He gritted his teeth and made a decision. From now on, he would leave Nexus and live without shame. His subordinates bowed and replied, "Yes, sir." The next day, everyone was gathered again in Oh Jin-gu's room. Choi Seo-han was cackling. She couldn't close her mouth. She had just received 40 million won. That Oh Jin-gu transferred and was staring at it. I wish those Incheon guys would kidnap Oh Jin-gu every day so I could get this much money. Ha! Oh Jin-gu was annoyed, but he was already used to this. Choi Seo-han then turned to Park Han-joon and invited him to go shopping with her on the weekend. Choi Seo-han and Oh Jin-gu took Park Han-joon shopping. He was forced to try on one outfit after another. Choi Seo-han, looking at the flamboyant outfits he wore, laughed her head off. She nonstop snapped pictures with her camera. Park Han-joon's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Oh Jin-gu shushed Choi Seo-han, telling her to stop messing around. He's been putting up with it this whole time. Choi Seo-han sighed and had to give up her fun. She found a simpler outfit on the rack for him. After Park Han-joon changed, he looked completely different, so handsome and radiant. It made Choi Seo-han blush and her heart pound. Boom ba la boom. She turned to the clothing rack to find more outfits in a similar style to take home. While she was looking for clothes, a few foreigners were standing in the distance, checking her out. They whispered amongst themselves in English. They recognized Choi Seo-han as a super hot beauty from Instagram. They glanced at the two guys with her, Oh Jin-gu and Park Han-joon, obviously dismissing them. They conspired a plan to mess with Choi Seo-han. A blonde-haired guy took the lead and went up to talk to her. He said a few flirty lines in Korean, immediately asking her to hang out with him. Choi Seo-han, who doesn't pull her punches with anyone, gave him a nasty look and, with a hostile attitude, asked what the hell they wanted. The blonde guy became even more interested. He casually put his arm around Choi Seo-han's shoulder and continued to flirt with her. Choi Seo-han let out a sharp breath. Without hesitation, she raised her hand and slapped the blonde guy a few times. "How dare you put your filthy hands on me? Don't think I didn't see you guys talking over there." Choi Seo-han showed the blonde guy no mercy. She directly told him to get lost. The blonde guy was furious. He got so angry he started cursing in English and raised his fist towards Choi Seo-han. But he was punched in the face by Park Han-joon. Blood streamed from his nose as he was sent flying. The other guy, who was black, saw his friend get hit and also rushed in for revenge. However, his punch didn't land, and he only ended up hurting his own arm. He suffered the same fate as his friend. Seeing this, Oh Jin-gu felt a headache coming on. Although he was angry, he managed to hold it in and said nothing more. At the Nexus Entertainment District, inside a bustling Sikbo casino, the head of the Entertainment District branch, Choi Tetsu, was talking to himself while shuffling cards. The retreat of Nam In-soo and the Incheon thugs isn't surprising at all. After all, I never expected much from that bunch. But that Oh Jung-gu guy, he's really something else. I can't believe he paid off all of Incheon's debts. Meanwhile, at the shopping center, the foreigners from earlier were crying incessantly, begging for forgiveness. But Park Han-joon turned a blind eye. Even though the men were speaking Korean, he pretended not to understand and continued hitting them. Choi Seo-han stood to the side, eating popcorn and cheering enthusiastically. Suddenly, at that moment, a store employee rushed over to intervene. She reminded Park Han-joon that he couldn't do that in the store. "Stop, or I'll call the police." Seeing the total mess, the employee broke out in a sweat. At this rate, the store would have to demand compensation. Choi Tetsu placed the card down. Across from him sat a girl with disheveled hair, looking extremely tense. Choi Tetsu calmly hung up his phone and returned to the game. After the cards were revealed, the girl screamed, tearing at her hair. She had lost again. This was the third time she had gone bust. Choi Tetsu had lost his patience. This girl had already borrowed over the 120 million won limit. He ordered his men in black to drag her out. The girl continued to plead, promising to do what Choi Tetsu had mentioned before. Choi Tetsu smiled cunningly. He pulled out a photo and threw it in front of the girl. The person in the photo was none other than Choi Seo-han. After waking up, Kim Jong-han trained his body relentlessly. The nurse worriedly advised him to train less, but he adamantly refused to listen. Oh Jung-gu came to the hospital to visit Kim Jong-han. He came out to meet him. He promised to pay back the hospital fees, but Oh Jung-gu waved it off. To him, that amount of money was a drop in the ocean. Helping you is the same as helping me. Kim Jong-han spoke with a serious expression. It wasn't just for Oh Jung-gu's sake. He would also destroy the Nexus organization. He wanted to do it for himself, not for anyone else. Pleased, Oh Jung-gu told him to recover quickly if he wanted to do that. After hearing about Kim Jong-han's condition, Park Han-joon was somewhat relieved. Oh Jung-gu sat down and laid out their next move. Now that they had dealt with the Incheon crew, their opponent was the one who lent money to the Incheon crew. That is the Gyeonggi leader, Choi Tetsu. That guy handles all the finances for Nexus. They make money through loan sharking and protection fees. Now, they had to hit them financially to be able to deal with them. The two of them went to meet someone in a warehouse. Sitting across from them was a young man, as skinny as an ant. He was shivering, biting his nails, with his legs pulled up on the chair. Oh Jung-gu promised to protect the man's life. Hearing this, the guy felt somewhat relieved and started to talk. This guy used to be incredibly handsome. He was devastatingly charming. People even said he was so good-looking he should become a star. Hearing this, he became quite arrogant, slowly developing delusions of grandeur. He became obsessed with these thoughts. Stars receive adoration and are wealthy. He grew more and more obsessed with wanting to be like them. However, life isn't always a dream. His number of followers was pathetically low. No matter what he did, his follower count wouldn't budge. Just as he was about to give up, he received an invitation to a gathering of several famous influencers. With a massive number of followers and engagement, he realized this was what he needed. He thought it was a life-changing opportunity. He had to seize it and get close to them, with the goal of learning from and leeching off their fame. He live-streamed with them, and because of that, his follower count skyrocketed compared to before, reaching 2 million. He thought his life had finally changed. But who would have thought that was just the beginning of a dark nightmare? After working with them for a while, they began to show their true colors. They would all go gambling. Because he refused to go along, he was kicked out of the group. Soon after, his follower count plummeted. No matter what he did to get views or likes, nothing worked. He fell into a crisis, obsessed with his follower count. He went back to find that group again. To get his followers back, he had to learn to gamble with them, joining their hedonistic lifestyle. Obsessed with the praise he got online, he was afraid of being abandoned and did whatever they wanted. Debauchery, gambling, betting, he did it all. In the end, he sank deep into it and lost everything. He blew through all the money his father had saved his entire life. In the blink of an eye, while he was panicking, someone came looking for him. This wolf in sheep's clothing was Choi Tetsu. That bastard took advantage of him. While he couldn't think straight, he tempted him with a loan. He took it and then lost it gambling again. Now, he had to pay 5 million won a month, continuously for 15 years. Only later did he find out that Choi Tetsu was the one behind it all, always finding ways to lure fame-hungry youths into their group, and slowly turning them into debtors like him. Now, he truly regretted it. That thought haunted him day after day, driving him mad. Oh Jung-gu stood up from his chair. He guaranteed that Dog Choi Tetsu and his gang wouldn't get away with it, exploiting people's dreams to turn them into debtors. I'll make them pay dearly for their actions. Oh Jungu promised to handle it. The debtor aggressively kicked open the door of Choi Tetsu's casino, challenging them to a game. The reason he dared to do this was because Oh Jungu had instructed him. At first, he didn't want to get involved with Nexus and refused vehemently. But after Oh Jungu calmly explained the plan, he finally decided to go. Of course, he wasn't doing it for free. All the money he used for betting was funded by Oh Jungu. Not only that, after the job was done, he would give him half of the money. Why would a man in debt like him refuse? Upon entering the casino, he threw a backpack full of money on the table, demanding to place a bet. The dealer there sneered, thinking he was a complete fool. Oh Jungu's plan was simple. He wanted to take all of Nexus's money through gambling. But it wasn't like he was unprepared. He already had his own way to win this game. Usually, in a crooked casino, the players never win. But based on what Oh Jungu heard from the debtor, he realized the house was using tricks to win. The debtor reviewed the plan in his head. Oh Jungu had told him to go all in, pushing the stack of money and shouting, bet. An all-in bet has its own rules. If you're caught cheating, you lose all your money. The dealer was about to shuffle the cards when suddenly, Park Han-jun flew in from nowhere. He punched the dealer in the face, knocking him to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, the debtor shouted, accusing the dealer of trying to cheat. He cackled, about to take all the money. But those Nexus bastards weren't going to let that happen. They refused to give up the money and resorted to thuggery. The other goons rushed in to fight, but were all taken down by Park Han-jun. The previous dealer, trembling, didn't dare try any more tricks. He started to place the ball on the roulette wheel. Park Han-jun slammed his fist on the dealer's hand. The ball shattered. Inside was a signal transmitter. Park Han-jun squeezed the man's hand hard and then punched him in the face. Oh Jungu laughed with satisfaction. This might look violent, but they were just playing fair. At the Nexus Entertainment branch headquarters, Choi Tetsu was furious upon hearing the report from his subordinate. In just one day, branches 2, 4, and 5 had all gone bankrupt. They truly couldn't be underestimated. Currently, Choi Tetsu was sitting and chatting with Choi Seo-han. In other words, Choi Seo-han had been lured there by a frenemy. Choi Tetsu negotiated with her. If she just revealed Oh Jungu's plan, he would give her triple the money. Without hesitation, Choi Seo-han happily agreed. She agreed so quickly it made Choi Tetsu uneasy. Choi Seo-han quickly provided her account number. Payment on delivery. Choi Tetsu threatened her not to take the money and then pull a fast one. Otherwise, they would deal with her on the spot. Choi Seo-han waved her hand, giving her assurance. She checked her phone for the transfer notification, then started to consider which plan to reveal first. Choi Seo-han mumbled a countdown from 10. Choi Tetsu didn't understand what she was doing. Just as the countdown finished, Choi Seo-han shouted, signaling for Park Han-jun to attack. Instantly, the outer door was smashed in. Park Han-jun walked in, radiating killing intent. Behind him was the debtor, who had been grinning from ear to ear. Park Han-jun faced a mob of aggressive dealers rushing at him. He took every single one of them down in an instant. Choi Tetsu broke out in a sweat. He didn't know what to do with that rampaging monster. No plan could possibly defeat Park Han-jun. Park Han-jun quickly finished off the small fry. He punched Choi Tetsu straight in the face, sending him flying. He turned, ordering his right hand and left hand men to take down Park Han-jun. After receiving the order, the two men tore off their shirts, showing off their bulging muscles. Choi Tetsu slowly got up. He seized the golden opportunity. Of the 36 stratagems, fleeing is the best. He had to save his own skin first. Although on the surface, his right and left-hand men looked strong, he knew they were all for show and just for intimidation. Their muscles were all pumped with water. Choi Tetsu reassured himself. He hadn't reached his manager position through fighting, but by using money and people wisely. That's how he had trampled over other strong opponents. He was confident he could easily handle Park Han-jun. Meanwhile, it didn't take long for Park Han-jun to defeat the two men. While they were distracted, Choi Tetsu had already fled. When Oh Jungu received the news, he was contemptuous. Even rats don't do that. He would send people to investigate and report back when he had information. He was quite worried, wondering what these guys would do next. They're just a bunch of mice. But even mice are a problem if not dealt with properly. Choi Tetsu ran like a cornered dog, looking for a place to hide. He went to an acquaintance's house, his nose still bleeding. This acquaintance seemed to be an IT guy. After performing a few commands, he succeeded in posting a wanted notice for Park Han-joon on the website. Whoever caught him would get a reward of 2 billion won. People thought the main source of income for the Gyeonggi branch was from its casinos, but in reality, the main income for the Gyeonggi branch came from illegal betting sites. The number of members on their European betting site reached 87,000, and on there, Park Han-joon's life was worth 2 billion won. The others who received the information were in an uproar, but with a 2 billion bounty, no one would dare to act, because everyone knew how dangerous he was. But Choi Tetsu created incentive rewards, inflicting damage, landing a hit that breaks a bone, destroying his eyesight. All of it came with a reward. With these incentives, even if you couldn't capture Park Han-joon, just by participating once, you could earn a large sum of money. Hearing this, everyone flocked to try and get to Park Han-joon. All of this was part of Choi Tetsu's plan. He was extremely smug. Park Han-joon was casually walking home from school when someone called out to him. He turned to see a girl. She pretended to mistake him for someone else and bowed to apologize. As Park Han-joon turned to leave, she pulled out a knife and lunged at him, but Park Han-joon sensed it. He spun back around, easily restraining the girl's hand that held the knife. She furiously cursed, "My money." Suddenly, someone with a baseball bat from behind attacked Park Han-joon. He feigned a punch towards the girl, while simultaneously blocking the baseball bat. He didn't understand what was happening. He threatened the girl, demanding an explanation. Park Han-joon grabbed the bat and swung it back, jabbing it straight into the face of the attacker behind him. The guy fell to the ground. Park Han-joon turned back to question the girl. Trembling, she held out her phone, explaining she only attacked him for the reward money online. That's why she attacked him. Park Han-joon saw his own picture on the betting site and immediately realized it was Choi Tetsu's doing. Suddenly, another crowd of people rushed towards them, chasing after Park Han-joon. Meanwhile, Choi Tetsu and his friend were gloating. The number of comments was increasing rapidly. The enthusiastic response from everyone was excellent. Choi Tetsu had anticipated this. He understood very well how people go crazy for money. Although, he has a lot of money, but he still chooses to gamble because he knows gambling will turn people into beggars who are very obedient. Let's say a CEO of some corporation is offered 2 billion to kill someone. He won't kill. That CEO would look at the person as if looking at a filthy insect. But the beggars who lost money from gambling are different. The amount of 2 billion to them is an incredibly extravagant sum, worth betting their entire lives on. Financial stability and rational thinking are lost, so no human morality remains. They will become very obedient dogs. Park Han-joon tried to use the gentlest means possible to subdue the charging civilians. Among them were the elderly and children. Just then, a car sped up and blocked the road. But because the alley was too narrow, they couldn't open the doors. They had to open the sunroof to get out. But as soon as they saw the light, they were hit over the head with a chair by Park Han-joon. Jun-gu called to ask if he was okay. He had also just received the news. He told him to wait, as he had already sent people to help. Park Han-joon told him there was no need to send anyone, but instead, he should send the location of that bastard Choi Tetsu. He would handle it himself. Choi Jun-gu gritted his teeth and hung up. He was seeing red with anger. He ordered the department head next to him to start using the company's manpower. Meanwhile, Park Han-joon was still fighting off the crowd of commoners. He stepped on a man's face, then climbed over a wall and ran off. He ran and ran until he entered a warehouse and the door outside was locked. Inside was another group of people. Park Han-joon didn't hold back anymore. He wouldn't hit ordinary people, but he was ready to take out all the Nexus guys. Park Han-joon beat the group inside to a pulp. He vented all his anger on them. The other guys began to feel apprehensive and didn't dare to advance. Jun-gu called to inform him that they had found Choi Tessa's location. He was there. After hearing this, he casually walked past the Nexus members, who were scared out of their wits, and stepped outside. All of his recent actions had been recorded by a camera, and Choi Tetsu saw everything. Park Han-joon stepped outside, and another human maze was waiting. Choi Tetsu and his friend sat in a computer room, scheming and laughing like madmen. They were certain Park Han-joon was dead for sure. The other guys suggested taking out Jun-gu next. Choi Tetsu was delighted, waving his hand and promising the guy more money. The guy was even more motivated. He hit enter, and a series of Jun-gu's pictures appeared on the big screen. Before they could do anything else, on their big screen, Jun-gu laughed mockingly. "I finally found you guys, Choi Tetsu." He panicked and told the other guy to turn it off. But the guy couldn't, no matter how hard he tried. Their entire system had been hacked by Oh Jun-goo's people. His goal was to take down Nexus, just like how they had done it to him. Oh Jun-goo hit enter. All the wanted posters of Park Han-jun on the website had been replaced with, "This is Choi Tae-soo's situation." Oh Jun-goo looked at them as if they were insects, left a good luck, and hung up. Choi Tae-soo was indescribably bitter, sweat pouring down like he'd been in a shower. On the other side, during the fight, the crowd received information that the bounty had switched to Choi Tae-soo. They quickly ran off with a screech. Choi Tae-soo received the bad news, and not long after, someone was banging on the door outside. He told the other guy to take all the money and escape first. The other guy followed the order, grabbing the suitcase and running like crazy with Choi Tae-soo. Just then, the door was broken down, and the crowd from outside rushed in. Choi Tae-soo reassured himself to try to survive and get out of here. If he was blinded by that dirty money, he would die instantly. He could create the website and become a slave again. As long as he was alive, he could climb high. He was about to climb a ladder, when suddenly his subordinate was sent flying, levitating in midair, and slammed into him. At the top of the stairs, Park Han-jun was already waiting. "Hello, I've been standing here all afternoon." Choi Tae-soo was so stressed that he froze, his legs unable to move. His heart pounded so hard it was about to jump out of his chest. Choi Tae-soo pointed at Park Han-jun and still tried to threaten him. "Don't you dare." He had a lot of connections. He wouldn't let him get away with it. Park Han-jun had no time to listen to this guy's nonsense. He jumped down and kicked him straight in the face. Choi Tae-soo luckily dodged one of his punches and was about to slip away, but he was grabbed by the hair and pulled back. Choi Tae-soo trembled, begging for his life, promising him a lot of money. But Park Han-jun didn't listen. He beat the guy relentlessly, even as he kept trying to bribe him with money. He just kept hitting him. Choi Tae-soo was beaten to a pulp. He used all his remaining strength to try to crawl away on the ground. He got near a backpack of money and threw it straight at Park Han-jun's face, begging for forgiveness. Park Han-jun showed no reaction. He was about to hit him again, but behind him, another crowd was rushing in. They looked at Choi Tae-soo as if they were seeing 2 billion flying before their eyes. So they competed to beat and trample him. By nightfall, the bounty on Choi Tae-soo was removed. The department head reported the information to Oh Jun-goo. Choi Tae-soo would need 14 weeks to recover. As soon as he is released, they will take appropriate legal action immediately. All the social media accounts that Choi Tae-soo used and the scumbags who helped him have all been caught. Oh Jun-goo was satisfied. He was extremely pleased. That Kim Ki-ol-soo must be furious right now. Kim Ki-ol-soo brought a fruit basket to the hospital to visit Choi Tae-soo. Choi Tae-soo, on the other hand, was trembling with fear. Kim Ki-ol-soo sat down by the hospital bed. He smiled and asked Choi Tae-soo where his money was. Choi Tae-soo stammered, unable to answer. Kim Ki-ol-soo squeezed his broken arm tightly, making him scream in pain. Kim Ki-ol-soo didn't let go, continuing to press him about the money. Kim Jong-han, after a long hospital stay, was finally discharged. He said goodbye to the nurse and left with his bag. Once outside, he coincidentally witnessed a scene of bullying and extortion. Kim Jong-han didn't hesitate. He warmed up and then punched those guys in the face. He tested his leg, easily taking down the group of thugs. Kim Jong-han let out a breath. He lamented, still too weak, not enough training. I have to increase the weight. Then he left. The thug who got his face smashed and struggled to get up. Only then did he realize the person who just beat him up was Kim Jong-han. So the rumor was true. The two legends, Park Han-jun and Kim Jong-han, have really returned. 2 years ago, both were very famous and were dubbed the strongest fists of the era. They waged war against Nexus, causing a stir in the region and becoming a major topic of interest for many across the country. Now that Incheon Gyeonggi has collapsed, the revival of those two names has once again captured everyone's attention. For many, it's just entertainment. But for many, it's terror and outrage. And for many, it is hope. Kim Ki-ol-soo strolled through the school. He walked past groups fighting until they were bruised and battered, and went straight up to the rooftop. Up there, another guy was sunbathing. This guy is Baek Moon-young. Kim Ki-ol-soo came to find this guy to fight Park Han-jun. Baek Moon-young, handsome but not stupid, also knew Kim Ki-ol-soo planned to use him to catch Park Han-jun and then kick him to the curb. He felt like he was just Kim Ki-ol-soo's lackey. Kim Ki-ol-soo smiled kindly. He enticed him, promising a decent reward this time. He told Baek Moon-young to just say whatever he wanted. Baek Moon-young was no pushover. He opened his mouth and demanded the position of Nexus's master. Kim Ki-ol-su's face darkened. He radiated killing intent, staring daggers at Baek Moon-young. Baek Moon-young, however, paid it no mind. He said he was just kidding. He knew Kim Ki-ol-su didn't come here to ask for a favor, but to give an order. If it's an order from the leader, he had to accept it. Baek Moon-young walked past Kim Ki-ol-su, promising to take care of it quickly and efficiently. After it's done, a round of drinks. And it's settled. Baek Moon-young returned home and sprawled on the couch. Did Kim Ki-ol-su come to him because he believed he would win against Park Han-jun? Baek Moon-young sat up straight and stubbed out his cigarette. There's no way that Kim Ki-ol-su guy would trust him. Kim Ki-ol-su's reason for coming to him was to destroy both him and Park Han-jun at once. There were other people in the room. This guy is Choi Ju-dong, Baek Moon-young's left-hand man. The guy was busy torturing someone again. The other guy is Lee Young-yong, Baek Moon-young's right-hand man. This guy was no joke either, sitting there sharpening a meat cleaver. Baek Moon-young stood up from the couch. Suddenly, he wasn't worried about Park Han-jun anymore. He snatched a screwdriver from Choi Ju-dong and stabbed it straight into the person being tortured. The man's blood flowed freely. Baek Moon-young threw the screwdriver to the ground. He put on his jacket, preparing to go fight Park Han-jun. In Oh Jun-gu's office, Choi Seo-han excitedly bought candy and a cake to record a video congratulating Kim Jong-han on his discharge. Oh Jun-gu rejected her request and told her to sit down to continue planning. Choi Seo-han was determined and went on strike with a megaphone. Today is a day off, not a work day. Oh Jun-gu and Choi Seo-han argued fiercely. Neither would back down. Kim Jong-han watched the two clowns argue over there. He turned to ask Park Han-jun, "Can we really trust them?" Park Han-jun simply replied, "As long as our goals are the same, it's fine." Just then, Oh Jun-gu received a call. He answered and learned that Incheon was in chaos. The fat guy had been seriously injured and was in the hospital on oxygen. Nam In-soo was furious but could do nothing. Oh Jun-gu had just arrived. He asked what happened, but Nam In-soo didn't answer, insisting he would handle it himself. With that, he stormed out the door. The fat guy, panting on the bed, called out to Park Han-jun. He didn't want his boss to fight anymore. But if he revealed who did it, it would be like seeking death. Oh Jun-gu pressed him. Who was it? But the fat guy hesitated, not speaking. Kim Jong-han spoke up from a distance. He knew it was Baek Moon-young. He knew that wound better than anyone. His own knee was shattered by none other than Baek Moon-young. Kim Ki-ol-su was sitting in a room, discussing a plan with someone else. Starting next month, many high school students from all over the country would participate in their game. And when the other person's company's two games achieve both first and second place, their stock price, valued at 15,000 won, will jump to 80,000 won. The other party was a bit skeptical at first, but eventually decided to cooperate. Kim Ki-ol-su went down the elevator with another person. The other person was dressed in all black, completely covered. He announced that the game was completed. They were going to release it nationwide, so there couldn't be any problems whatsoever. The person in all black is Leon Kim. It's not clear which branch he's from, but he's been entrusted with a fairly important task. Leon Kim then brought up the matter of Baek Moon-young, advising Kim Ki-ol-su that using the guy would definitely lead to a lot of dirty problems. Kim Ki-ol-su, however, didn't seem worried in the slightest. He believed that when you're in the jungle, there will be hyenas that eat rotten meat. But even if it eats rotten meat, it still can't change the food chain in the jungle. So just chill. Kim Jong-han continued to train diligently and intensely. Choi Seo-han also came to train, but it was to post on Instagram. Choi Seo-han turned to invite Kim Jong-han to film a training video with her next time. She heard Baek Moon-young was back from the U.S. Not many people know about him, so she needed his help. She asked Kim Jong-han for information on the guy. He wiped his sweat and continued lifting weights. Baek Moon-young is one of the most talented guys I've ever met. In his eyes, there are only three who could be called strong: Park Han-jun, Kim Ki-ol-su, and that scorpion-tailed bastard Baek Moon-young. 2 years ago, when Kim Jong-han and Park Han-jun were still in high school, they liked to hang out at the local eateries. This area had no leader, including the Nexus territory. But a few months later, Baek Moon-young came to their area, and everything started to change. First, Baek Moon-young took control of all the schools in that area. He forced the schools to compete to decide their ranking. Then he bullied the schools with the lowest ranking crazily, not for any specific purpose, just because he felt like it. A few days later, Someone from Kim Jong-han's crew was beaten to a pulp. Baek Moon-young told him to meet at the park at 8 p.m. He and another person went there. They waited until almost 9, but not a single soul appeared. The person with him told him to go home, but he stubbornly kept waiting. Then he saw another acquaintance collapse in front of him. Baek Moon-young's tactics are terrifying. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find him. That guy silently took down everyone in his school, making his sanity crumble bit by bit. And when Kim Jong-han's endurance reached its limit, that son of a bitch appeared before him. And from then on, the two were officially enemies. Baek Moon-young and Kim Jong-hyun met at a construction site. He told Kim Jong-hyun he'd make a good errand boy for him. Kim Jong-hyun swung a kick at Baek Moon-young's face, but the other guy leaned back slightly and dodged it. Kim Jong-hyun, truly enraged by Baek Moon-young's schemes, yelled at him, "Why not pick a fight with me? Why go after other innocent people?" The furious Kim Jong-hyun continuously attacked Baek Moon-young. He easily dodged his attacks. Baek Moon-young sneered contemptuously. He took off his jacket and landed a powerful punch on Kim Jong-hyun's body, cracking his ribs. Kim Jong-hyun gritted his teeth as blood sprayed from his mouth. He quickly regained his balance and counterattacked. Kim Jong-hyun raised his leg, aiming a kick at Baek Moon-young's face, but he was one step faster. He swung his elbow, striking him in the face. Baek Moon-young was incredibly strong. If the protagonist, Park Han-joon, was a beast, then that bastard Baek Moon-young was a venomous snake that could poison the world. He made Kim Jong-hyun blind with rage, and he couldn't focus on the fight. Baek Moon-young easily grabbed Kim Jong-hyun by the neck and slammed him to the ground. He rained down punches, aiming for his face and body. Kim Jong-hyun tried to stay conscious. He raised his legs, locking them tightly around Baek Moon-young's body, leaned up and grabbed his hair. Then he head-butted him straight in the face. In pain, Baek Moon-young kicked Kim Jong-hyun, sending him flying. Kim Jong-hyun was badly injured. Blood was gushing out. He tried to get up. Baek Moon-young wiped the blood from his mouth. His face taut as he walked towards him. The two charged at each other and continued to fight. Kim Jong-hyun and Baek Moon-young fought fiercely. Neither side would back down. In the end, exhausted, they both collapsed. Just as they were about to get up and fight again, police sirens wailed. Their fight was forced to a halt. In Busan, Kim Cheol-soo was eating with Lee Moo-jin, a heavily tattooed gangster. While eating, Lee Moo-jin said he'd heard some interesting things lately. Rumor had it that Baek Moon-young was targeting Park Han-joon. Right now, everything was a complete mess. If Park Han-joon took down all of Busan, there would be no one left in the country who could beat him. Kim Cheol-soo just smiled, showing no reaction. Lee Moo-jin raised his spoon, making a throat-slitting gesture. He'd also heard that Baek Moon-young was as strong as Kim Jong-hyun. They could use him to take down those annoying beasts, those eyesores. Kim Cheol-soo pushed his chair back and stood up, asking if Lee Moo-jin was done eating. He already had a deal with Park Han-joon, and besides, some tactless guys had shown up today to cause trouble with them. Outside the window, a gang of thugs had already gathered. They were furious because Kim Cheol-soo and Lee Moo-jin were calmly eating kimbap, paying them no attention. Their leader shouted, ordering his underlings into position. His men, armed with tables, chairs, and pipes, smashed the glass into the diner. Interrupted while eating, Lee Moo-jin was pissed off. He called his own brothers out to fight. The two sides clashed in a violent brawl. Kim Cheol-soo just stood there like a bystander, coolly watching it all. The other gang's leader charged at Kim Cheol-soo. He sighed, then clenched his fist and threw a punch, sending the guy flying. With both hands in his pockets, Kim Cheol-soo walked through the brawling crowd. Park Han-joon and Baek Moon-young. He needed to reconsider this matter. Baek Moon-young's gang gathered their forces, preparing to fight Park Han-joon. His underlings were skeptical. Could they even win? Park Han-joon was basically a monster. He was someone even Nexus couldn't defeat. Baek Moon-young told the crowd to shut up. He declared, adamantly, that they gathered today to take down Park Han-joon. He cursed the crowd below, calling them a bunch of idiots. Why the fuck should we live in fear like this? Baek Moon-young gave the crowd a sermon, boosting their fighting spirit, promising they would become number one. After his rousing speech, the crowd's morale was boosted like hell. They roared in agreement, forgetting all their fears. While they were hyped up, Park Han-joon suddenly kicked the door in, dragging a guy along like a dog. 100 of you? Bring on. Park Han-joon tossed aside the guy whose neck he had just snapped. He took off his jacket and threw it down. The others were dead silent, not daring to make a sound. Park Han-joon walked up to Baek Moon-young, gesturing for him to come forward. I'll teach you what a real party is. Baek Moon-young tossed. He also put on his gloves. But he didn't fight. Instead, others attacked from behind. Two guys jumped out of nowhere and whipped Park Han-joon's head with a jacket. There was broken glass in the jacket, so it cut him. Baek Moon-young threw a punch, forcing Park Han-joon to raise his arm to block. The punch made the glass dig into his arm, drawing blood. This gang was resorting to overwhelming him with numbers. They all charged forward at once to attack Park Han-joon. This was Baek Moon-young's plan. The guys charging forward were the weakest, even with glass shards in their hands. They weren't much stronger, but they just kept coming. They wanted to let Park Han-joon get exhausted and injure his hands. Park Han-joon, upon realizing this, ripped off the shirt he was wearing, wrapped it tightly around his hand, and swore at Baek Moon-young. Baek Moon-young ordered his men to keep charging. Park Han-joon was at a disadvantage in that long, drawn-out battle, that endless battle. But that situation is what creates legends. Park Han-joon finally took down all of them. Only Baek Moon-young was left. He swung his fist and smashed his face. Baek Moon-young was beaten senseless. He couldn't believe it. Back in my den, he had fought many super strong guys, even if they were heavier than him. He had never been defeated, not even by the guy who was called the strongest in my den. Baek Moon-young had completely dominated there. But now, Baek Moon-young was being beaten like a dog by Park Han-joon, with no teeth left to even suck porridge. In the end, he lay on the ground like a dog. Park Han-joon stepped on his head and warned him, next time, don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, you'll be spending the rest of your life with your face in the dirt. If you don't listen, you'll eat shit. Baek Moon-young screamed in resentment, but couldn't do a thing. A depressed Baek Moon-young sat by the river, looking distraught. The beating had knocked some sense into him. It was fucking ridiculous. 1 against 100, and he still came out fine? Was Park Han-joon using some kind of cheat? As Baek Moon-young was sitting alone, his friends came to check on him. Hey, don't cry. After some encouragement from his friend, Baek Moon-young's spirits were lifted again. After that fight, Baek Moon-young disappeared for a long time. But his disappearance didn't mean the after effects of the fight disappeared too. Park Han-joon's absolute victory. That 1 versus 100 battle was too captivating, and rumors began to spread like wildfire. On every street corner, everyone was talking about it. This story even sparked a rumor that Nexus was so afraid of Park Han-joon, they didn't dare touch him. This news also reached Kim Cheol-soo. Nexus's position as a fearsome power was starting to be threatened. So Nexus tried to take over Park Han-joon's territory, but he surpassed their wildest imaginations. He was much stronger than those bastards. Starting from Incheon, Gyeonggi Kangwon, Park Han-joon also defeated all the well-known top fighters. Lee Moo-jin told Kim Cheol-soo that he would take down Park Han-joon. Kim Cheol-soo refused, because doing it after conquering the country wouldn't be as effective. He wanted people to remember Nexus, not just as an ordinary gang of bullies. It had to start with fear, the most basic kind, defeating Park Han-joon completely in a fight. Kim Cheol-soo said he would do it with his own hands. Kim Cheol-soo's subordinate went to Lee Young-kim. He told him to calm down. Fighting Park Han-joon alone would put the entire Nexus in a precarious position. He knew Kim Cheol-soo had run out of patience, but just for the benefit of taking over one area, taking such a huge risk wasn't worth it. We have a bigger goal, Lee Young-kim told Kim. Kim Cheol-soo, let's just end this quietly, even if it means playing dirty. And they found the perfect person to finish the job. Kim Cheol-soo went directly to meet Baek Moon-young. Baek Moon-young had also heard the rumor that Nexus was having a hard time because of Park Han-joon. Although he had been humiliated like a worm, it wouldn't be easy for others to succeed either. Kim Cheol-soo maintained his smiling face. He got straight to the point. He was here on business, not to fight. Kim Cheol-soo told Baek Moon-young to clean up Park Han-joon. He would help. Then he would give him this territory. Baek Moon-young didn't like the sound of Kim Cheol-soo's words. He challenged the leader of Nexus. Baek Moon-young charged forward, swinging his fist at Kim Cheol-soo. However, he only needed one hand to easily block his punch. Kim Cheol-soo asked, "Don't you want revenge, Baek Moon-young?" He promised he had a solid plan and money, ready to take down Park Han-joon. Now, he just needed the right person. Baek Moon-young thought of the humiliation of having Park Han-joon step on his head, shaming him like a dog. His heart softened, and he asked what the plan was. Kim Jong-hyun walking under an umbrella in the rain, was surrounded by a bunch of guys. You didn't need a brain to know these guys were up to no good. So Kim Jong-hyun tossed his umbrella and charged in to fight them. Baek Moon-young followed the Nexus Gang's plan. They played dirty, beating Kim Jong-hyun relentlessly, then took pictures and sent them to Park Han-jun. And, just as expected, after seeing his friend being brutalized, Park Han-jun flew into a rage. Alone and fuming, he went to the location they demanded. Kim Jong-hyun was gagged and hung upside down from a tree branch. Park Han-jun, seeing that the mastermind was the persistent Baek Moon-young, naturally didn't look pleased. Baek Moon-young, with newfound courage, took an iron pipe and smashed it hard against Kim Jong-hyun's leg. Park Han-jun, seeing his friend tortured like that, lost all reason. Without another thought, he charged forward. Rage had blinded him. He was so distracted he didn't see the chain trap. The rest of them used the chains to restrain Park Han-jun. The others took turns beating him with pipes. Park Han-jun raised his arms to cover his head. He gritted his teeth, grabbed the chains, and pulled hard. The men holding the chains were sent flying. Baek Moon-young was in a frenzy. Today was the day he would get his revenge. Baek Moon-young's underlings, after some struggle, managed to chain Park Han-jun to a pillar in the corner. He couldn't move. Baek Moon-young gripped the iron pipe, utterly resentful. Whenever he thought about what happened before, he got so fucking angry. What the hell is an honorable victory? Playing dirty is fine, as long as you win. He didn't give a damn. Park Han-jun struggled to break free from the chains, but it was useless. Baek Moon-young continued to use the pipe, smashing it into Kim Jong-hyun's leg. He channeled all his anger and bitterness into the blows. Park Han-jun was furious but could do nothing. Baek Moon-young ordered his men to charge. The others charged forward one by one, and each and every one of them got slapped down. Park Han-jun gripped the chains tightly, flexed his abs, tensed his glutes, and finally broke the chains. Seeing the beast about to break loose, the others panicked. They rushed to pour gasoline everywhere. Park Han-jun had one last chain on him. He pulled the chain taut, and Baek Moon-young took the opportunity to charge, smashing the pipe on his head. Bleeding, Park Han-jun collapsed. Baek Moon-young was triumphant. He stomped on Park Han-jun relentlessly, stepping on his head to avenge his previous humiliation. Baek Moon-young's underlings yelled for him to stop. They had set the place on fire, and the flames were starting to spread. But Baek Moon-young didn't stop. He stood arrogantly, his foot on Park Han-jun's head. He was bitter that he'd been told to live his life, with his face to the ground. He laughed like a madman, non-stop. His underlings saw it was a lost cause, and shouted for everyone to get out first. They told each other to drag Baek Moon-young out, but that stubborn fool wouldn't budge. He was delusional, thinking he was now the strongest in the country. After some chaos, the others finally got out. Kim Jong-hyun, still hanging from the tree branch, cried tears of despair, thinking that from the beginning, it was all his fault. If it weren't for me, there's no way Park Han-jun would have been harmed by a bastard like Baek Moon-young. In the fight 2 years ago, a few days ago, he was always a hindrance to Park Han-jun. Park Han-jun scrambled up from the ground. He approached Kim Jong-hyun, apologizing for being late. The two of them helped each other out of the burning house. A few days after the incident, the police came looking for Kim Jong-hyun and Park Han-jun. Only then did they realize that the whole thing had been planned. They were suspected of fighting and starting the fire at the building to take revenge on students from another school. Witnesses and evidence proving their presence began to mount. Of course, the police were not on their side, and the most decisive piece of evidence was that the burnt-down building was owned by Kim Cheol-soo's family. They, through a major law firm, demanded a huge amount of compensation, and they continuously harassed the parents of Park Han-jun and Kim Jong-hyun. When everyone was exhausted, Kim Cheol-soo acted all magnanimous, forcing them to apologize publicly in exchange for a lighter sentence. At that time, Park Han-jun's father was struggling greatly, running around everywhere trying to borrow money, but no one would lend him any. Yet, his father didn't blame him at all. He just hoped that after this, his son would stop fighting and become a better person. Park Han-jun wearily walked out of his house. He gritted his teeth and punched a tree by the roadside. Those who seemed to fear nothing, not heaven nor earth, like him, were also powerless against the strength of money and power. In the end, the fight was over. He had lost. He had finally learned that in this world, those who only use brute force could never win. Park Han-joon had to grit his teeth and get beaten by the Nexus gang. Kim Jong-hyun, resentful, gritted his teeth in the hospital. Kim Cheol-soo looked down from above, looking at him like he was an insect. He beat Park Han-joon up, uttered a warning, and left. Since then, Park Han-joon stopped fighting until now. Kim Jong-hyun told a long story to Choi Seo-han. After hearing it, she fell silent. Initially, when Park Han-joon approached Kim Jong-hyun, he had initially refused. Not because he didn't trust Park Han-joon, but because he was afraid of becoming a burden. Choi Seo-han patted Kim Jong-hyun's head comfortingly. You don't need to think about that anymore. You have us now. They also shared a common enemy in Nexus. Ozungu sat in a high-rise, clicking his pen in thought. Incheon is one thing. They're just lackeys. Gyeonggi is a minor source of funding. Nexus doesn't depend on those two locations, but they didn't use their main force. Instead, they used Baek Moon-young. There's definitely another motive. Park Han-joon was walking down the street when he received a text. Hello, long time no see. As soon as he turned around, he saw several cars speeding towards him. Park Han-joon rolled away to dodge. One of the cars stopped and threw a photo at him. In the photo were Kim Jong-hyun and Choi Seo-han talking to each other. Park Han-joon immediately recognized this old trick from that bastard Baek Moon-young. Kim Cheol-soo and Lee Mun-jin were again in a room discussing things. This time, they were using Baek Moon-young again. Kim Cheol-soo told Lee Mun-jin to use the local kids that Nexus manages, but Mun-jin disagreed. Among them was the best kid he had ever trained. He couldn't just stand by and watch. Kim Cheol-soo used him as a pawn against Baek Moon-young. Kim Cheol-soo sighed in frustration, telling Lee Mun-jin he didn't get it. It wasn't that he didn't trust him, but that they had an important mission ahead. Now is not a good time. Their long-term plan could be ruined. Kim Cheol-soo said he would let Lee Mun-jin handle Baek Moon-young so they could focus on more important matters. Only then did Lee Mun-jin relent. Kim Jong-hyun was showering in a public bathhouse. When someone broke in, he used a lockpick to open his locker. He plugged in a USB, installed hacking software, and then left. Just as Kim Jong-hyun left the gym, some guy on a motorcycle swung a bat at him. Kim Jong-hyun agilely dodged. An air fan fell from above. He quickly dodged again and kicked the fan aside. The two guys on the motorcycle wore black helmets that hid their faces. They revved their engines and sped off, but before leaving, they threw Kim Jong-hyun a photo. The photo was of Park Han-joon. Somewhere else, Baek Moon-young's and Lee Mun-jin's groups met up. Although they didn't like each other, Lee Mun-jin still had to raise a hand and greet him. But Baek Moon-young ignored him. He and his underlings showed contempt for Lee Mun-jin. He was so angry veins popped on his face, but he couldn't do a damn thing. Kim Jong-hyun tried to call Park Han-joon, but couldn't get through. Meanwhile, Park Han-joon received a text from Kim Jong-hyun's phone. The message said they had captured Kim Jong-hyun and demanded he come. If he was late, Kim Jong-hyun would never be able to use his legs again. Park Han-joon immediately took off. Kim Jong-hyun saw the messages being sent from his phone. He realized their dirty scheme. He was furious but could do nothing. If this continued, it would be just like 2 years ago. Baek Moon-young gloated, lighting a cigarette. This game is easy. Kim Jong-hyun has been lured far away. After a while, Park Han-joon arrived. Baek Moon-young stood on the rooftop, waving happily and laughing like a madman. Below, a crowd of gangsters had gathered. One guy stepped forward, wanted to solo Park Han-joon. He introduced himself as being from Hanguk High. Before he could finish, he was decked in the face by Park Han-joon. He basically didn't even acknowledge the guy. Immediately, a group of others charged, but each and every one was taken down in a single blow. Park Han-joon broke through the encirclement and kept moving. Baek Moon-young was still on the roof cheering, not forgetting to taunt Nexus's elite forces, calling them a bunch of losers. Is no one going to step up and dampen Park Han-joon's spirit? Lee Mun-jin, despite being taunted, didn't get angry. The guys just now were new recruits he was training. He just brought them here for some exposure. Park Han-joon entered the building. As soon as he entered, he ran into 2 men in martial arts uniforms. They were the elite forces of Nexus. Park Han-joon didn't want to waste time, so he attacked directly. He swung a punch at the long-haired man, but he easily dodged. He grabbed his wrist and threw his entire body to the ground. Park Han-joon was grabbed by the collar and lifted up. The long-haired man threw him through a glass door. Park Han-joon was thrown into. A room. The long-haired man looked at him dismissively. Too green and inexperienced. The rumors are exaggerated. Trying to fight Nexus with this level of skill? Park Han-joon got up and attacked again. This time, the short-haired man took him on. He grabbed Park Han-joon's fist, holding him while the long-haired man put him in a chokehold. Lee Mun-jin was the head of Nexus's core division, and these two, the long-haired and short-haired man, were the elite forces under his command. Park Han-joon was struggling in the chokehold. He tried to break free. He backed up, slamming the long-haired man into a cabinet behind them, but he didn't let go. He maintained a rear naked choke. Park Han-joon tried everything but couldn't escape. This technique seemed simple, but its nickname was just 3 words, Lion Killer. This was the only technique where a person could kill a lion with their bare hands. Park Han-joon was starting to cough up blood. He gritted his teeth and stood up, ramming the long-haired man's head into the wall. The long-haired man still tried to hold on. Park Han-joon's pupils began to dilate. He gritted his teeth and slammed him hard again. The long-haired man's head into the wall. The long-haired man was dazed. He couldn't believe he'd run into such a reckless guy. Park Han-joon slammed him one more time. The long-haired man coughed up blood, passed out, and was forced to let go. The short-haired man, whose hand was held by Park Han-joon, was grabbed by the collar and slammed to the ground. He coughed up blood and passed out as well. Earlier, Lee Mun-jin had warned these two that they couldn't possibly beat Park Han-joon. At first, it will seem easy. You'll feel like you can do it. But the more you fight, the more you'll realize how damn hard it is. But even knowing they couldn't win, they had to fight together. Their job was singular. Focus on depleting Park Han-joon's stamina until he was exhausted. Park Han-joon continued to the next floor. The person welcoming him was another member of the elite force. Choi Seo-han and Kim Jong-hyun rode their warhorse, flying down the road. Even if she went at full speed, it would take at least an hour to get there. Choi Seo-han turned into an alley. A group of people was already waiting there. That group had just dealt with the ones who hacked the cell phone. They all got in the car and left. Kim Jong-hyun's heart was burning with anxiety. He prayed for Park Han-joon to hold on. Right now, Park Han-joon was fighting an elite member of Nexus. This guy was no pushover. He was gaining the upper hand against Park Han-joon. Earlier, Lee Mun-jin had instructed him to fight while keeping his distance from Park Han-joon and to stall for as long as possible. The black-haired man, though reluctant, had to obey. Lee Mun-jin had also warned him that even if he was confident he could beat Park Han-joon, he shouldn't try. Currently, Park Han-joon was taking a barrage of punches from the black-haired man. He couldn't even dodge. Most forms of martial arts have tells before they attack, but the black-haired man's technique was different. He moved his fist first, and his waist and legs followed. Park Han-joon, who relied on reading pre-movements, didn't even realize the black-haired man was about to attack before his fist had already reached his face. In other words, the black-haired man's fist felt like a bullet. The black-haired man thought of Lee Mun-jin's warning. He clicked his tongue in disdain, thinking Park Han-joon was nothing special. He swung his leg, kicking him in the stomach. Park Han-joon also raised his leg to counter, but the black-haired man dodged. He became even more cocky. The black-haired man backed into a wall. He realized Park Han-joon's strategy was to corner him here, to stop his movement. Park Han-joon swung a punch at him. The black-haired man ducked under it, giving Park Han-joon a punch to the stomach in return. Park Han-joon was pushed back. He regained his balance and charged forward again. The black-haired man timed it perfectly, punching him in the stomach again just as he charged in, sending him flying once more. That last blow was the black-haired man's specialty, his famous, effortless fist. Park Han-joon remained expressionless. He continued to charge. The black-haired man clicked his tongue. He didn't expect him to take 2 hits like that and still dare to rush in. Annoyed, he punched him repeatedly in the stomach. Park Han-joon endured it. This time, he wasn't sent flying. He had turned the tables. He grabbed the other man's wrist and smashed his fist into his face. Up on the rooftop, Lee Mun-jin received news that the elite force on the 2nd floor was down. He pondered thoughtfully. It ended faster than he predicted. Those useless fools didn't listen to his warning and messed everything up. If they couldn't hold out longer, it would cause some damage. But given Park Han-joon's condition now, if he fights the 3rd and 4th floors, he should still run into some trouble. As he was comforting himself, Lee Mun-jin got another report. The 3rd floor had also been taken down by Park Han-joon. His eyes widened in astonishment. Damn, that's crazy. Wasn't the guy on the 2nd floor strong enough to exhaust Park Han-joon? How'd he take down the third floor so fast? And, as expected, the fourth floor had also been defeated. Baek Moon-young stood to the side, cackling like a madman upon hearing the news. Park Han-joon was winning, but his own mood was excellent because seeing Lee Mun-jin's sour face always put him in a good mood. Lee Mun-jin, taunted, gritted his teeth, veins popping in bitter anger. He told Baek Moon-young to use his brain. If this continues, Park Han-joon will get here soon. But Baek Moon-young couldn't care less. It just meant that Nexus's people were all useless. He told Lee Mun-jin to sit there and open his eyes and watch him kill Park Han-joon. While the two childish men were arguing, an underling rushed up to announce that Park Han-joon was about to arrive. Park Han-joon walked step by step to the upper floor. He cracked his neck, then strolled nonchalantly out onto the rooftop. Baek Moon-young's gang was already waiting there. He sat with his face covered, legs spread apart, acting mysterious. Park Han-joon asked where Kim Jong-hyun was. Baek Moon-young cackled and called him a fool. Kim Jong-hyun was never here to begin with. He had been tricking him from the start. Suddenly, a net was thrown out, and Park Han-joon was caught in it. Baek Moon-young's underlings rushed forward, taking turns hitting him with clubs. Begin! Park Han-joon yelled. Suddenly, Baek Moon-young looked down, startled. A group of people on motorcycles was approaching. Kim Jong-hyun and Choi Seo-han had arrived. Choi Seo-hyun sped ahead on her bike. As she did a wheelie, Kim Jong-hyun leaped off his motorcycle, kicking the leader of the gang, gathered in the courtyard in the face. Nam In-soo also rode his motorcycle into the crowd of thugs. He told Kim Jong-hyun to just go to Park Han-joon. He would handle things here. Baek Moon-young stood on the rooftop, looking down resentfully. He was so furious he could barely breathe. The group of bikers charged straight into the thugs, clearing a path for Kim Jong-hyun. The thugs recognized the group of bikers. They were the ones from Incheon that Park Han-joon had dealt with before. And last time, Lim Joo-min had also recognized Nam In-soo. Kim Jong-hyun raised his leg to attack Lim Joo-min. The man blocked it with one hand. He said he had no business with Kim Jong-hyun and told him to just go and save Park Han-joon. He was here to catch the traitor, Nam In-soo. Nam In-soo took off his jacket and told Kim Jong-hyun to go. He would handle things here. Lim Joo-min and Nam In-soo charged at each other, trading blows. However, Baek Moon-young was also furious about being betrayed by Nam In-soo. He turned back and ordered his underlings to deal with Park Han-joon. Hurry up. They grabbed iron pipes and beat him relentlessly. Baek Moon-young, seeing that his underlings' blows weren't doing much, snatched a pipe and decided to do it himself. He stood in front of Park Han-joon and swung at his head. Park Han-joon was just waiting for that moment to tear through the net and break free. He still took a full blow from Baek Moon-young's pipe, but he also managed to land a punch on him. Baek Moon-young's underlings swarmed to hold him down. Baek Moon-young, reeling from the painful blow, pulled a screwdriver from his clothes, intending to stab Park Han-joon with it. But before he could, Kim Jong-hyun appeared out of nowhere and kicked him square in the jaw. Park Han-joon also broke free from the underling's grasp. Baek Moon-young spat out blood and a broken tooth from the kick. His eyes red with fury, he cursed. He tied a rope around his wrist and lunged to grab Kim Jong-hyun, pushing them both off the rooftop. Kim Jong-hyun grabbed Baek Moon-young's leg to keep from falling. Baek Moon-young relentlessly stomped on his head, trying to make him let go. Kim Jong-hyun braced his feet against the wall to gain momentum, and then pushed off. Baek Moon-young's face slammed into the wall, while Kim Jong-hyun crashed through a window into a room. The rope tied to Baek Moon-young was slowly being pulled up. Park Han-joon was the one pulling him. Now, it was his time to settle the score. Baek Moon-young was scared out of his wits. He tried to pull on the rope to keep from getting closer to Park Han-joon. Park Han-joon gave the rope a powerful tug. Baek Moon-young flew up and fell right towards him. As he landed, Park Han-joon swung his fist and punched him straight in the face. Baek Moon-young was sent flying. Then he was pulled back again by Park Han-joon with the rope. He punched him repeatedly in the face. Kim Jong-hyun came up to the rooftop. He told Park Han-joon to hold on and let him get a few punches in. Park Han-joon let go of the rope and told Kim Jong-hyun he only had 5 minutes. Kim Jong-hyun approached Baek Moon-young and told him to get up. They were going to fight it out. Baek Moon-young gritted his teeth. Though blood was pouring down his face, he stood up to fight. He threw a punch at Kim Jong-hyun while constantly expressing his resentment for not being the main character. He threw a barrage of punches at Kim Jong-hyun, but Kim Jong-hyun blocked them. Kim Jong-hyun launched a counterattack. He delivered an uppercut straight to Baek Moon-young's face. Baek Moon-young coughed up blood. Kim Jong-hyun then gained momentum and kicked Baek Moon-young in the face. In the middle of the fight, Park Han-joon rushed in from nowhere and also punched Baek Moon-young in the face. Kim Jong-hyun asked what he was doing, saying his 5 minutes weren't up yet. Park Han-joon said he was just too pissed off and couldn't help but punch him. The two of them ganged up and beat Baek Moon-young to a pulp. He was beaten so relentlessly he couldn't get up. In the end, he had to shamefully kneel down and beg for his life like a dog. Park Han-joon went back, got an iron pipe, and gave it to Kim Jong-hyun. He had no intention of letting him go. If this could have been settled with words, I wouldn't have started it. Kim Jong-hyun took the pipe and approached Baek Moon-young. Terrified, Baek Moon-young backed away, crying and begging for mercy. Kim Jong-hyun swung the pipe down. Baek Moon-young squeezed his eyes shut and screamed. The pipe slammed down between Baek Moon-young's legs. He hadn't even been hit, but he was so scared he pissed his pants. Kim Jong-hyun, with a look of contempt, called Baek Moon-young pathetic. He said he didn't want to become a scumbag like him, so he wouldn't resort to such dirty tricks. Kim Jong-hyun turned away, but Park Han-joon picked up the pipe and slammed it right on Baek Moon-young's leg. He screamed like a stuck pig. The people fighting below also noticed. Baek Moon-young was hanging from the rooftop like a dog. With tears in his eyes, Lim Joo-min knew the game was over. He and his underlings raised their hands in surrender, postponing the duel for another day. Nam In-soo also gritted his teeth and told his crew to disperse. Park Han-joon and Kim Jong-hyun stood on the rooftop, looking down. The sky was beginning to brighten. Kim Jong-hyun asked who they were going to take down after Baek Moon-young. Without hesitation, Park Han-joon answered, Kim Cheol-soo. Baek Moon-young joined the ranks of the disabled, confined to a hospital bed, watching the sky, the ground, the clouds. Meanwhile, Park Han-joon continued his journey of taking on hundreds of guys by himself. Today, he had just crushed another gang at Dongsan High School, leaving them unable to recover. News of Park Han-joon spread far and wide. Choi Seo-hyun casually crossed her legs at home, watching the news. Nam In-soo and Kim Jong-hyun, on the other hand, were also working very hard. She turned to Eo Jung-gu and saw him still glued to his computer. It seemed like he was looking for something. Suddenly, he slammed the desk and let out a yell, which startled Seo-hyun. She asked him what he was talking about. Eo Jung-gu said he had discovered what that bastard Kim Cheol-soo was plotting. The Pascal app, just 3 hours after its launch, it topped the charts on App Store platforms. Even now, a week later, user connections are still being maintained, and because of that, the stock price of the company that released the Pascal has skyrocketed sixfold. All of this was Nexus's doing. News about the Pascal app and Kim Cheol-soo flooded the headlines. Kim Cheol-soo and his subordinates were meeting in a luxury skyscraper. They had also received news that the crew of Park Han-joon was taking over schools affiliated with Nexus. Rumors were spreading that Nexus was avoiding a direct confrontation with Park Han-joon out of fear, and if this continued, it would become even harder to control the thugs. Lim Joo-min told Kim Cheol-soo to make a decision. Kim Cheol-soo looked at his hands, thinking. Then he asked the man named Rian beside him how much more time they had. Rian replied, 1 week. Their plan would be completed in 1 more week. Kim Cheol-soo made his decision. He ordered Lim Joo-min to avoid direct conflict for 1 more week. After that, Kim Cheol-soo himself would handle it. Their empire was big enough to withstand these petty games. They just needed to endure for a little while longer, and they would have 100 billion won in their hands. After finishing their work, Park Han-joon's group returned to their headquarters. Choi Seo-hyun assigned Nam In-soo and Park Han-joon to handle the schools she had just mentioned. As for Kim Jong-hyun, she paused for a moment, then sent him to deal with Choi Baek-hyun of Dongjik High School. That guy was nothing special. Just someone who had trained in MMA. After assigning the tasks, Choi Seo-hyun sent them on their way, telling them she'd see them tomorrow at noon. Kim Jong-hyun felt that something was strange about Choi Seo-hyun, so he went to her parked bike to ask about it. There's definitely something about Dongjik High School. Choi Seo-hyun didn't hide it anymore. She took off her helmet and tossed it to him, telling him to get on for a ride to clear their heads. A while later, the two of them were at the seaside, talking on a bench. Choi Seo-hyun recalled what happened 2 years ago. She was one of the first members of Nexus. Choi Seo-hyun's family life wasn't great when she was young. Her father had an affair with a younger woman and abandoned the family. Her mother had to work tirelessly to raise her and her brother. She grew up with no hope that her family situation could ever improve. She hated that house. Her mother believed she was studying hard, but she had started hanging out with kids from similar backgrounds. She street raced to find a feeling, the feeling of belonging with someone, the feeling of being protected. That's what she liked about Nexus. One day, Choi Seo-hyun's homeroom teacher came to talk to her privately. Stubbornly, Choi Seo-hyun told the teacher not to lecture her. She was going to drop out soon anyway. This homeroom teacher looked at Choi Seo-hyun as if she were a lost cause. He didn't even bother advising her anymore. He asked her why she hadn't dropped out yet, and why she'd started studying recently. He had looked at Choi Seo-hyun's grades. Her math score was an 80. If she wanted to, she could easily be at the top of her class. Startled, Choi Seo-hyun lowered her head. She tried to argue that she just got lucky guessing the answers, that she hadn't studied at all. The teacher took the backpack off his shoulder and pushed it toward her. He told Choi Seo-hyun that if she wanted to study, she should just do it. Stop being so half-hearted about it. Other students, even if they study, might not necessarily get a score of 80. The backpack the teacher gave Choi Seo-hyun was full of books with pre-written notes. He claimed he'd happened to find them on the street. If she didn't need them, she could throw them away. The homeroom teacher was worried about Choi Seo-hyun's life, even though he couldn't be responsible for it. He told her to just keep coming to school until she dropped out and to not cause any more trouble. Choi Seo-hyun silently kept her head down, clutching the backpack tightly in her arms. She went to the Nexus hangout spot and sat sullenly in a corner. Over on the other side, they were bullying a male student and taking his money. The two bullied male students were trembling on their knees, apologizing for collecting so little money and begging for mercy. But the thug was in no mood to be kind. He laughed maniacally and unzipped his pants, urinating directly on the two male students. Choi Seo-hyun couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her helmet and stood up. She threw the helmet straight at the thug's head, yelling loudly that he was crazy for bullying middle schoolers. The one who had been hit by the helmet stood up. His head was bleeding. He furiously cursed at Choi Seo-hyun. Another guy grabbed her by the hair and punched her in the face. They had no concept of sparing the fairer sex, punching Choi Seo-hyun until her mouth bled. They also hurled insults at her relentlessly. Choi Seo-hyun gritted her teeth, cursing under her breath, unable to do anything. Suddenly, someone wielding a bat rushed in to fight the thugs. The young man took a punch from them, but he got back up. He picked up Choi Seo-hyun's helmet. It was only then that she realized. The young man was her younger brother, Baek-hyun. The thugs rushed to attack him. However, Baek-hyun grabbed one of them by the collar, pinned him to the ground, and smashed his head with the helmet. The thug showed no signs of moving. Only then did Baek-hyun stand up. Choi Baek-hyun is Choi Seo-hyun's younger brother. Unlike her, he wasn't a shallow fool. He had always been a filial and obedient son. Before, he was also beaten up badly by thugs. His family had abandoned him. At school, he couldn't live a normal life. He had no one by his side. Therefore, he was forced to become stronger. He made a name for himself in one fight. The rumor of Choi Baek-hyun taking on 4 thugs alone and winning spread throughout the school. Friends around him gossiped, saying unpleasant things about both him and his sister. Someone came and invited Choi Baek-hyun to Nexus, and he joined, and he became someone nobody wanted to mess with. But then one day, he fell into a trap and had to fight more than 10 guys alone. But he didn't run. He decided to fight. The fight that day was long and chaotic, and he reached his limit. He was pinned down and beaten by them. At that moment, someone came to save him. It was Kim Cheol-soo. He came because he heard that Choi Baek-hyun was useful. That day, it was as if Choi Baek-hyun had seen a lot. He used to hate seeing other people's backs. The backs of his father and his sister. The ones who had abandoned the family. The backs of scumbags who backstabbed others. Because all he had ever seen were the backs of pathetic bastards. But that day was the first time he felt something different. Watching Kim Cheol-soo fight, Choi Baek-hyun promised himself that he would follow him. Choi Seo-hyun asked him why he joined Nexus. He didn't answer. Kim Cheol-soo had ordered him to manage this branch. He only does what Kim Cheol-soo wants. Choi Baek-hyun warned Choi Seo-hyun not to get in his brother Kim Cheol-soo's way. Otherwise, he wouldn't go easy on her, even if she was family. And just like that, Choi Baek-hyun became the branch manager. He asserted his dominance over anyone who opposed him. Ruthless and unscrupulous. Witnessing this, Choi Seo-hyun could only remain silent, helpless. After that, Choi Bi-hyun began to harass the teachers. He was cunning and cruel. He even went after anyone who was close to the teachers. Gradually, they all resigned. And for the teachers who chose to fight to the end, like Choi Seo-hyun's homeroom teacher, he was determined to stay and protect the children. That crossed the line they had drawn. So, he was severely injured. He was taken to the hospital. Though injured, he still comforted Choi Seo-hyun, telling her not to cry. It's just a few wounds. He asked about the other students who were also bullied. Choi Seo-hyun regretted ever being a member of Nexus. From that day on, she decided to take responsibility for overthrowing Nexus. Choi Seo-hyun told Kim Jong-hyun the whole story in one breath. There's an old saying, a leopard can't change its spots. She knew her younger brother all too well. So she told Kim Jong-hyun not to hesitate if he had to kill him. The next day, Park Han-joon was back to actively grinding at Bontran High School. The mission was quickly completed. Meanwhile, Nam In-soo also finished the job at Horian High School. The only one left was Kim Jong-hyun. Because the location was quite far, he had only just arrived. Kim Jong-hyun pushed the door open, but no one was there. Choi Seo-hyun was riding her bike smoothly down the road, when suddenly a disheveled girl jumped into the middle of the road, crying and begging for help. Choi Seo-hyun stopped her bike, took off her helmet, and asked what was wrong. The woman who had been crying for help smirked. And I thought Choi Seo-hyun was so smart. Turns out you're just a foolish bitch. Choi Seo-hyun was surrounded by a group of thugs. One of them clapped her on the shoulder, telling her if she didn't want trouble, she should come with them quietly. Choi Seo-hyun swung her helmet and smashed it into the head of the guy who had just touched her shoulder. The other woman grabbed her hair and yanked it back. Choi Seo-hyun elbowed her in the face. Suddenly, someone with an iron pipe struck the back of Choi Seo-hyun's neck, knocking her unconscious. That night, Choi Seo-hyun was locked in a room. She kept banging on the door and cursing. She knew damn well this was the work of her trashy little brother. He was using this method to keep her contained. Choi Bi-hyun returned from outside. He asked his subordinate how long she'd been locked up. The subordinate replied, 1 or 2 hours. Choi Bi-hyun sneered. He kicked the door hard. He told Choi Seo-hyun to listen carefully. He wouldn't repeat himself. Starting from now, there are only 5 days left. He told Choi Seo-hyun to just stay put quietly during that time. He would ensure her safety. If she made any more noise, he would consider it getting in the way of his dear brother, Kim Cheol-soo. If that happened, he would make sure Choi Seo-hyun wouldn't return home in one piece. Choi Seo-hyun smirked with satisfaction. She tossed her phone on the ground and flopped onto the bed. She agreed to Choi Bi-hyun's terms. Meanwhile, Kim Cheol-soo also received news that Choi Seo-hyun had been captured. They knew that the people in Park Han-joon's group were the type who live and die for their comrades. So, capturing Choi Seo-hyun would buy them a little more time. Kim Cheol-soo was satisfied. Just a little more effort was needed. Because today was the last day, they sent a message to Lee Jun-goo's crew, along with a photo of Choi Seo-hyun, telling them not to do anything. The group, Park Han-joon and the others, sat glumly in Lee Jun-goo's room. He told them they needed to be careful, because Choi Seo-hyun was in their hands. But if they just let things be, sooner or later Kim Cheol-soo would become untouchable. At that point, even Lee Jun-goo wouldn't be able to do anything about him anymore. Even if it was dangerous, they still had to continue to crush Nexus. Nam In-soo interrupted and asked, manipulating Kim Cheol-soo's stock price not only didn't solve the Nexus problem, but also caused their stock price to rise significantly. Doesn't that mean we've already failed? Lee Jun-goo laughed. We lost. You could see it that way. But there's one thing. Ever since we started this, we've often made things messy and complicated. And in times like these, we always win. But Lee Jun-goo was still extremely confident. They could still turn the tables. As Nam In-soo said, Nexus's stock price had increased 8-fold because they had interfered and manipulated their stock price. However, the Nexus guys were still trying to stall for time. This means that before the game is over, they still have a chance. This is also Kim Cheol-soo's last chance. The short selling session. Simply put, short selling is borrowing stocks to sell them, betting on the price to drop. Then, when it's time to pay back, you buy the stocks back at a lower price and return them. Usually, the borrower bets on the stock price falling, compared to when the stocks were borrowed when they're returned. If the stock price has dropped, the borrower profits. At that point, Kim Cheol-soo will surely dump the stocks he mobilized through short selling one more time to maximize his profits. According to the information received, The remaining time for Nexus to repay its debt is 5 days. Kim Cheol-soo will need Nexus's influence to drive the stock price down. They need to stop them from doing that. Kim Jong-hyun asked, what about Choi Seo-hyun? Lee Jun-gu said, of course, we have to save her. The GPS tracking just ended. We have to rescue her now. Kim Jong-hyun immediately jumped up, demanding to go rescue her. Lee Jun-gu found his reaction a bit strange. Do you like Choi Seo-hyun? He asked. Kim Jong-hyun looked a bit embarrassed. She's our teammate. A teammate has been captured, so of course we have to save her. Lee Jun-gu didn't say anything more. He turned to Park Han-jun and Nam In-soo. You two, get going. Nam In-soo had managed to take a nap. Park Han-jun didn't understand a thing. But there was one thing they didn't need to think much about, and still understood. An eye for an eye. Lee Jun-gu was satisfied. All you have to do is hit and run. As for the money, I'll take care of it. Kim Jong-hyun's crew stormed Choi Bi-hyun's hideout, looking for her. Park Han-jun told Kim Jong-hyun to go on ahead. I'll clear the way for you. Kim Jong-hyun didn't refuse and went first. A subordinate reported to Choi Bi-hyun that Park Han-jun's crew had arrived. He was surprised. How did you find this place? Choi Seo-hyun's voice echoed from inside. She cursed Choi Bi-hyun, calling him a dog-brained idiot. Did you not think I still had a tracking device on me? Choi Bi-hyun opened the door. He looked at Choi Seo-hyun with a grim expression, threatening to send her to meet her ancestors. Kim Jong-hyun rushed to the second floor and saw that Choi Seo-hyun had been taken hostage by Choi Bi-hyun. He held a box cutter to her neck, threatening Kim Jong-hyun. Kim Jong-hyun, don't come any closer or I'll kill her. Choi Bi-hyun raised the cutter, demanding Kim Jong-hyun get the hell out. Kim Jong-hyun glanced at him with contempt. He really didn't know his place. While Choi Bi-hyun was distracted, Choi Seo-hyun grabbed his hand and threw him to the ground. She was already prepared for this. Kim Jong-hyun charged forward and kicked Choi Bi-hyun squarely, sending him flying. Choi Bi-hyun braced himself to stay on his feet. He hadn't expected his sister to do that. If this continued, it would affect his beloved brother, Kim Cheol-soo. He needed to resolve this situation peacefully at all costs. Choi Bi-hyun grabbed a nearby glass door and threw it at Kim Jong-hyun. At the very least, he had to take him out first. Kim Jong-hyun didn't expect him to resort to such a cowardly trick. After Choi Bi-hyun threw the glass door at him, he charged forward to attack. He was already wearing brass knuckles to make his punches hurt more. He threw a punch at Kim Jong-hyun. Kim Jong-hyun leaned aside and dodged it. Choi Bi-hyun's fists repeatedly missed and hit the wall. Kim Jong-hyun kicked Choi Bi-hyun's hand, causing his fist to swing wide. He cursed Choi Bi-hyun, calling him a fool. You're being used by a scumbag, and you don't even know it. Hearing people badmouth his beloved Kim Cheol-soo made Choi Bi-hyun furious. His motivation doubled. He clenched his fists and continued to attack Kim Jong-hyun. This guy was seriously crazy. Seeing that words were useless, Kim Jong-hyun had no choice but to fight. Kim Jong-hyun beat Choi Bi-hyun senseless. Outmatched, he was thrown against the wall, but he still gritted his teeth and stood up. With his hands in his pockets, Kim Jong-hyun slowly approached him. You're truly blinded by hero worship, being used by some random guy to kidnap your own sister, and even imprisoning her just to buy time. You're beyond saving. Choi Bi-hyun couldn't stand people insulting his idol. He charged forward again without thinking. And again, he was met with a kick to the face from Kim Jong-hyun. To Choi Bi-hyun, his brother, Kim Cheol-soo, was like a light that saved him from a dark time. He was like a guiding light, a brilliant star that pierced through Choi Bi-hyun's heart. He knew it wasn't the right path, but he didn't care, because Choi Bi-hyun had decided to follow his beloved Kim Cheol-soo. It was a bit unusual and sometimes exhausting, true, but his previously all-black life was illuminated for the first time by that man. So he swore he would do anything for Kim Cheol-soo. Choi Bi-hyun was beaten to a pulp by Kim Jong-hyun, but still wouldn't give up. He kept getting up and charging forward. Kim Jong-hyun beat him senseless again. Stubborn as an ox, Choi Bi-hyun grabbed his pants, only to get kicked and punched again by Kim Jong-hyun. Choi Seo-hyun bit her lip. She remembered Choi Bi-hyun's past and couldn't bear to watch. Choi Bi-hyun continued to get up. As Kim Jong-hyun was about to hit him again, Choi Seo-hyun tapped his shoulder, stopping him. She stepped forward and slapped Choi Bi-hyun across the face. Tears streamed down her face. She told him to stop. Choi Seo-hyun tried to make her brother understand. Because of Nexus, someone was almost left permanently disabled. Someone was driven to bankruptcy. Someone had to watch their friend die right before their eyes, unable to do anything. Choi Seo-hyun begged her brother to stop. Kim Cheol-soo will just use you and then throw you away. She apologized to Choi Bi-hyun for abandoning him. Choi Bi-hyun bit his lip in resentment. He didn't want to hear it. Kim Jong-hyun couldn't listen anymore. He also stepped forward and told Choi Bi-hyun to stop. A guy who never gives up, no matter how many times he's beaten. So why are you giving up on your own life? Kim Jong-hyun extended his hand towards Choi Bi-hyun. Stop this, he said. It's not too late. Choi Bi-hyun recalled his humiliating, cowardly past. He grabbed Kim Jong-hyun's hand, pulled him closer, and punched him straight in the face. Choi Bi-hyun was truly incurable. He stated firmly, I will never betray my Kim Cheol-soo. He saw the words of Choi Seo-hyun and Kim Jong-hyun as just an attempt to drive a wedge between him and his brother. Choi Bi-hyun pushed past them, broke a window, and jumped out. Kim Jong-hyun wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He had to admit that Choi Bi-hyun kid was really stubborn, but he wasn't incurable. He was just lost. In a way, he was much stronger than him. He was doing this because he didn't want to be abandoned by Kim Cheol-soo. Over at Kim Cheol-soo's place, they were focused on stocks. Their performance for the day was a 20% drop. Including yesterday, the total drop was 32%. Kim Cheol-soo was satisfied and waved for everyone to take a break. That's it for today. Suddenly, someone shouted, the stock price is rising. It's up 6%. The buy orders are suddenly surging like a storm. Another force has definitely intervened. Short selling is a bet on the stock price falling. But on the contrary, if the stock price rises, everything will fall apart. You could guess with your knees who had intervened. Lee Jun-gu. Kim Cheol-soo's side was in a complete panic. The stock continued to rise another 6%. Someone had taken advantage of this to get Nexus on the news. Even now, negative articles were flooding in non-stop. The stock price had risen to positive 18%, and the market had closed. A huge volume of stocks was sold, and the stock price rose. But now, Kim Cheol-soo's crew couldn't influence it any further. His face was now twisted and black as the bottom of a pot. Choi Bi-hyun burst in from outside, ignoring the subordinates trying to hold him back. He was still shouting that he wanted to see his brother Kim Cheol-soo. He didn't read the room at all and barged in, demanding reinforcements to handle the situation. Kim Cheol-soo signaled his subordinates to let Bi-hyun go before he could rejoice. He was punched by Kim Cheol-soo so hard he coughed up blood. He then punched Choi Bi-hyun several more times in succession. Kim Cheol-soo asked why he didn't fight to the death for him. If he had died, it might have bought him a little more time. Kim Cheol-soo looked at Choi Bi-hyun with exhaustion, but he just cursed at him, calling him useless. He turned to Lim Yujin. He told him to gather all the branches. He would personally enter the fray to end this ill-fated feud. The next day, after a sleepless night for Kim Cheol-soo's gang, the situation hadn't improved. The news about Nexus being a trashy game company was all over the papers. Yet, the stock price kept rising relentlessly. Eo Jung-gu couldn't stop grinning. Let's see at this point what that Kim Cheol-soo guy could possibly do. Kim Cheol-soo gathered all the branch managers and elite forces. He gave another inspiring speech. For the past 2 years, they had successfully conquered the entire country, something no one had ever done before. Not only did they prove their strength, but they also easily made profits from loans, generating an amount of money that could only be described as immense. However, Park Han-jun had returned and joined forces with others to stand in Nexus's way. Kim Cheol-soo ordered his forces to capture Park Han-jun before the day was over. He would make Park Han-jun fall into the abyss. Once again, this was no joke. Kim Cheol-soo was furious. His face was dark, veins popping as his subordinates roared in response, their morale soaring. Suddenly, a luxury car sped into the middle of the thugs. Eo Jung-gu and Park Han-jun's group swaggered out. Eo Jung-gu, with his chin held high, looked at Kim Cheol-soo provocatively. I told you before, when we meet again, it'd be hard for you to keep that stoic face, Kim Cheol-soo. And now here we are. Eo Jung-gu looked at Kim Cheol-soo's army around them. He knew full well that he intended to end things with an all-out brawl. He proposed a 3-on-3 match to make it quick. Kim Cheol-soo disagreed. He wouldn't stoop to playing such a childish game. Eo Jung-gu chuckled. Of course, a competition needs a wager. If Kim Cheol-soo's side wins, Eo Jung-gu will take the loss and withdraw from his business territory. Of course, that includes giving up on revenge. But if it's the other way around, I will turn Nexus into pavement bricks and Nexus will be permanently disbanded. Starting today, Eo Jin-gu stated the terms of the bet and then asked Kim Cheol-soo, "Do you dare?" The Nexus subordinates waited, sweating. Kim Cheol-soo agreed to the terms. But he wanted one more thing. If he won, Eo Jung-gu would have to hand over Park Han-jun for them to deal with. He had to personally cut off one of the boy's limbs. Before his anger would subside, Park Han-jun didn't mind the fight. If Park Han-jun agreed, then Eo Jung-gu had no reason to refuse. The two sides wrote a contract. The rule was that the first side to have all its members fall loses. On Eo Jung-gu's side, Park Han-jun, Kim Jong-hyun, and Nam In-soo would fight. On Kim Cheol-soo's side, it was himself, Lim Yujin, and the Kangwon branch manager, Kim Ji-hyuk. The two sides began the match. Everything would be decided in this battle. The remaining branch managers, seeing Kim Cheol-soo choose Kim Ji-hyuk, weren't too pleased, but they couldn't deny that the guy was truly strong. Kim Ji-hyuk and Nam In-soo started the match. Kim Ji-hyuk was concerned for his opponent, asking if he would be okay with such a weight difference. Nam In-soo tugged at his collar. He didn't bother replying and attacked directly, punching Kim Ji-hyuk's face repeatedly. Kim Ji-hyuk was no pushover. He swung his arm and punched Nam In-soo in the stomach, making him cough up blood. The weight behind Kim Ji-hyuk's fist was truly not to be underestimated. Kim Ji-hyuk got serious, taking off his socks and shoes. He was determined to go all out. Eo Jung-gu behind Nam In-soo reminded him not to get taken down. Getting taken down means it's over. As swift as the wind, Kim Ji-hyuk rushed forward, grabbed Nam In-soo's waist, and directly slammed him to the ground. Nam In-soo spat out blood. Choi Seo-hyun shouted for him to get up. The match isn't over. Nam In-soo gritted his teeth. Kim Ji-hyuk didn't stop. He lifted Nam In-soo from the ground, flipped him over, and slammed his head straight into the dirt. Nam In-soo was beaten down, unable to get up. Eo Jung-gu had warned him before. His probability of winning was at most 5%. The Kangwon region is known as a land of brutes. Kim Ji-hyuk is the third-generation sole heir of his clan, which is said to have a 3-generation tradition of unmatched strength. As for how strong that guy is, rumor has it, he once uprooted an ancient tree in the village with his bare hands. He not only has skill, but also a hulking physique. To put it bluntly, he's extremely strong. Nam In-soo refused to give in. Even with just a 1% chance, he would never give up. He would definitely fight to the end. Eo Jung-gu told Nam In-soo to calm down. "I didn't say you'd definitely lose. I still said there's a 5% probability. Use your brain. Why can a human control a bull? Because people have a way to catch it." Nam In-soo struggled for a moment and finally broke free from Kim Ji-hyuk. He slowly stood up. He looked truly pathetic now. In fact, after experiencing a few basic moves, Nam In-soo already understood why he was losing. If he got caught one more time, it would really be over. Nam In-soo gritted his teeth and took a stance. Kim Ji-hyuk charged again. Eo Jung-gu wasn't worried at all. The way a human handles a bull is through its vision. Nam In-soo swung his hand, hitting Kim Ji-hyuk's eye. He swung his fist, but missed. As soon as the raging bull charges, the bullfighter just needs to immediately obscure its vision. Nam In-soo followed the theory perfectly. Right after that, he used outboxing, combined with a continuous barrage of punches on Kim Ji-hyuk. Kim Ji-hyuk raised his arms to block the successive punches. Those punches didn't have much of an effect on him. He even thought he had the upper hand. Nam In-soo seized the opportunity, using infighting to land an uppercut. Kim Ji-hyuk was sent flying. He dug his feet into the ground to keep his balance. Then he charged forward again. Lim Yujin, standing on the side, shouted, warning Kim Ji-hyuk to dodge. But it was too late. Kim Ji-hyuk ran straight into Nam In-soo's fist. He coughed up blood. Kim Ji-hyuk took the full force of that blow, but still wasn't down. He clutched his face and continued to fight. Nam In-soo, while he was still disoriented, rushed in to attack again. Kim Ji-hyuk swung his fist, but Nam In-soo ducked his head and dodged. He landed another punch straight to his face. Kim Ji-hyuk swore in pain. He wouldn't let himself be hit by the same move 3 times. Nam In-soo used one hand to obscure Kim Ji-hyuk's vision. With his other hand, he punched him straight in the face. Kim Ji-hyuk was hit repeatedly. However, the accumulated damage wasn't enough to take him down. The longer this dragged on, the more it would favor Kim Ji-hyuk. Even if Nam In-soo landed countless hits, Kim Ji-hyuk's fists were still more overwhelming. Lim Yejin thought so, but something felt wrong. There's no way Eo Jung-gu didn't know this. He glanced over at Eo Jung-gu and saw him covering his mouth, smiling. Nam In-soo rushed forward. This time, instead of his hand, he used his knee, driving it straight into Kim Ji-hyuk's face. A perfect knee strike. Everything Nam In-soo had done until now was all a setup for this one move. Kim Ji-hyuk was incredibly tough. Just when it seemed he would fall, he managed to keep his balance. He grabbed Nam In-soo's leg and slammed him directly to the ground. Park Han-jun's group gasped. Kim Ji-hyuk frantically punched Nam In-soo. Nam In-soo grabbed a handful of sand from the ground and threw it in Kim Ji-hyuk's face. He finally stopped punching. Nam In-soo stood up again, covered in blood. His eyes had completely changed. He leaped forward, tearing a piece of flesh from Kim Ji-hyuk's face. Both of them swung, punching each other in the face. The other members of Nexus were dumbfounded. Nam In-soo's eyes were strange. Now his fighting style had also changed. He was like a crazed wild animal. Because Nam In-soo had pushed his body beyond its limits, he was no longer fighting with reason. His current state was completely dominated and controlled by instinct, the true survival instinct of an animal. Kim Ji-hyuk, fighting directly against Nam In-soo, also had a bad feeling. If this continued, he would be in danger. Kim Ji-hyuk decided to risk it all. He planted his feet, built momentum, and lunged to grab Nam In-soo's waist. Nam In-soo also grabbed his hair. Kim Ji-hyuk leaped up and slammed both of their heads into the ground. Nam In-soo's face was covered in blood. He cursed. He was damn close to meeting his ancestors. Now, even just standing on his own 2 feet for Nam In-soo was an ordeal. However, the lingering presence of Nam In-soo, who had achieved an absolute victory, Kim Ji-hyuk, had now proven that their team was dominant. Before Lim Yejin entered the fight, Lim Yejin punched Nam In-soo and beckoned Kim Jong-hyun over. One district can't have 2 redheads. One of you has to shave his head. The second match had just begun. Lim Yejin lunged forward with a preemptive strike. He unleashed a flurry of blows, pushing Kim Jong-hyun back. That Lim Yejin guy uses Chinese martial arts. Eo Jung-gu had also predicted that right from the start, Lim Yejin would gain the upper hand. It's a fact that Chinese martial arts are quite famous, but they aren't very practical. However, one cannot equate that all their traditional martial arts are weak. Lim Yejin is the heir to a clan with a long tradition of martial arts, and also one of the most influential mafia organizations. Kim Jong-hyun was completely overwhelmed. He was being treated like a punching bag by Lim Yejin. He sneered, calling him too weak. I don't understand why they choose a stray dog like you to compete. Kim Jong-hyun angrily counterattacked. He swung his leg, kicking Lim Yejin. He could feel that the boy's kick was quite heavy, so he started to fight more seriously. Kim Jong-hyun grabbed Lim Yejin's hand. He delivered another kick. In terms of talent or technique, he was certainly far inferior to him. So the only thing he could do right now was one thing: focus and concentrate his power, striking a single spot on his body. Kim Jong-hyun kicked at Lim Yejin's stomach, but he blocked it with his leg. He struck with his palm straight to his chin. Then Lim Yejin attacked relentlessly. Kim Jong-hyun raised his leg, trying to counter, but all of his attacks were blocked by Lim Yejin. He punched him in the chest, cracking his ribs. He swung his fist straight into Kim Jong-hyun's face. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. He remembered his past of being bullied, perhaps because of his small stature. Wherever Kim Jong-hyun went, he got beaten up. He remembered one day, the kids who bullied him ran into and had a scuffle with Park Han-jun. At that time, Kim Jong-hyun had witnessed Park Han-jun's overwhelming strength. Kim Jong-hyun followed him and asked Park Han-jun how to get stronger. He had replied, however much you get hit, just hit back that much. From that day forward, Kim Jong-hyun worked like crazy to change himself. Park Han-jun's words had given him the feeling that he could do anything. Then Kim Jong-hyun understood. He was a kid with no goddamn talent at all. His physique was small. There was no way he could become someone like Park Han-jun. Sometimes, people around him looked at him like he was a malignant tumor. He absolutely hated that. He never wanted to be like that, not even once. Kim Jong-hyun admitted he wasn't a genius, and he only did what he was capable of. I'm not a genius, so all I know is how to throw stupid moves like this. Until the moment Kim Jong-hyun's effort became his talent, he fought back. After getting his fill of being beaten by Lim Yejin, Kim Jong-hyun finally struck back. He kicked Lim Yejin's shin. the bone broke. He collapsed, unable to get up. The reason why, up until now, Kim Jong-hyun had only focused on that spot was all to make him break his leg. Kim Jong-hyun stepped on Lim Yujin's chest. He punched his face repeatedly. Lim Yujin's hair was grabbed by Kim Jong-hyun. He tried to get up, but was met with Kim Jong-hyun's knee straight to his face. Kim Jong-hyun continuously punched and kicked, but Lim Yujin wasn't one to give up like that. He swung his hand, using a technique to strike Kim Jong-hyun's chin, sending him staggering back. Kim Jong-hyun put his hand on the ground and kicked at Lim Yujin. He raised his hand to block. He flipped back a few times and then charged again. The two sides brawled fiercely. After several kicks from Kim Jong-hyun, Lim Yujin's arm showed signs of fracture about to break. He lost focus for a moment. Kim Jong-hyun landed a punch on his face. Lim Yujin clutched his arm. He couldn't believe he was losing to Kim Jong-hyun. He was born as the chosen one in a clan, with a long tradition of martial arts. To continue and inherit this clan, he had to go through hellish training. But the position of successor was too much. For a useless person like him, he was the disgrace of the entire clan. So, Lim Yujin had to strive relentlessly. If the talented ones put in one bit of effort, he had to put in 10 or even 100 times more. Only then could he gain the clan's recognition. However, the effort of the untalented was seen as merely what was expected. In his clan, they adopted a child to be the successor. His father said, if he could surpass this genius adopted son, he would pass the position of successor to him, facing a rival who was born with natural talent. Lim Yujin felt it was unfair and tragic. He failed miserably. Unwilling to accept it, he left the clan. He resolved to become even stronger. The talent they bragged about every day. He swore he would prove he could achieve it, perhaps even exceed their expectations. And while he was running wild, Lim Yujin hit the second wall of his life. That was Kim Cheol-soo. Lim Yujin was beaten to a pulp by Kim Cheol-soo. He couldn't believe that in this world, a monster like that existed. Could he really not overcome talent? By trying his hardest? He couldn't defeat Kim Cheol-soo. It was also the first time a kid stronger than him had told him that he was strong. Because of those words, he joined and followed Kim Cheol-soo. After a long time of effort, little by little, Lim Yujin became stronger, but he never in a million years expected that Kim Jong-hyun could block his attack. Kim Jong-hyun and Lee Min-hoon were still fighting fiercely. Despite the blood flowing freely, they continued to fight. Choi Seo-hyun turned to Oh Jun-gu, telling him to stop them. If they keep fighting like this, someone's going to end up dead. Park Han-jun raised his hand, telling her not to interfere, because this was Kim Jong-hyun's fight. On the other side, the two were still fighting. Neither of them wanted to give up. Their bodies felt like they were about to explode, but they endured. It wasn't because the opponent was strong, but because of the perseverance and spirit radiating from them. It was proof of their insane training to become strong. Because of that, neither could afford to lose. Both wanted to prove the value of the effort they had put in. In the end, they punched each other to exhaustion and collapsed together. Kim Cheol-soo and Park Han-jun caught them. Now, the final match began. An intense one-on-one between Kim Cheol-soo and Park Han-jun. Kim Cheol-soo told Park Han-jun to kneel. He said if he knelt like 2 years ago, he would spare his dog's life. The other Nexus members watching from the side burst out laughing mockingly. Park Han-jun remained silent. Kim Cheol-soo continued to taunt him. He told him that now that he had money and friends, he should know how to live and enjoy life. Why did he insist on chasing after Nexus? Oh Jun-gu, listening from the sidelines, trembled with anger. That Kim Cheol-soo was still completely unrepentant. Park Han-jun, who had been silent, finally spoke. Because of Nexus, he had suffered so much shame, indignation, hatred. Even as time passed, those emotions never faded. On the contrary, they made him angrier every day. Park Han-jun didn't want to talk anymore and rushed in a fight. The two exchanged blows. Kim Cheol-soo was noticeably faster than Park Han-jun. The Nexus members on the sidelines cheered for Kim Cheol-soo. He continuously attacked Park Han-jun, gaining the upper hand. Oh Jun-gu, watching from the outside, didn't look good either. Those who had fought Kim Cheol-soo directly all said the same thing. Kim Cheol-soo could predict all of his opponent's next moves. It wasn't just prediction. It was like the ability to see the future. Oh Jun-gu had thought it was nonsense. But witnessing it with his own eyes, he wondered, can Kim Cheol-soo really see the future? If not, then how could he be overwhelming Park Han-joon like this? The situation was very bad right now. Park Han-joon was completely on the defensive. Outside, a black car drove through the rain. The person in the car was Kim Cheol-soo's subordinate. He was on the phone, reporting the situation to some group of people. They were planning to give Kim Cheol-soo another chance to see if he was qualified to work with them. The rain poured heavily. Park Han-joon and Kim Cheol-soo were still fighting. Kim Cheol-soo still had the advantage because he could read all of his opponent's attacks. He punched and kicked. Kim Cheol-soo didn't see Park Han-joon as anything special. To him, he was just ordinary trash. Kim Jong-hyun, resting on the sidelines, was silently hoping for Park Han-joon to win because this fight was their everything. Park Han-joon let out a roar and took off his outer jacket. He was only now starting to fight seriously. The atmosphere around Park Han-joon began to change. He gathered momentum and lunged forward to attack. Kim Cheol-soo was a bit startled at first, but he leaned back and dodged it. He predicted Park Han-joon's next attack would be a left kick. He raised his arm to block the next blow. However, contrary to what Kim Cheol-soo thought, Park Han-joon's kick was so powerful it sent him staggering back. Kim Cheol-soo was in shock. He had clearly seen Park Han-joon's technique, but he couldn't block it. Park Han-joon could move faster, and perhaps he possessed a strength that he couldn't predict. Park Han-joon gradually turned the tables. From the beginning, he had been trying to endure only because he was calculating how to defeat Kim Cheol-soo without having to kill him. And now he had changed. Park Han-joon was determined not to let that guy off. There was a very simple reason. Although the father of Park Han-joon owned and ran a gym, he never taught him martial arts. It was because his father understood very well that when you're in the world of boxing, sometimes you can't avoid disagreements with someone. Sometimes your mind isn't clear. At times like that, you can think of dozens of ways to eliminate the opponent you're fighting. That's why Park Han-joon's father didn't teach him martial arts. He was born with a strong body. If he made a single mistake, it could make him regret it for the rest of his life. Because Park Han-joon was a very special person. What Park Han-joon had shown up to this point, everyone could see, even though he hadn't learned anything formally. With his incredible ability, he showed them how much stronger he had become. Through real combat, Park Han-joon was a monster capable of self-evolution. However, having come this far, there was no one left who was confident they could teach Park Han-joon anymore. Kim Cheol-soo could no longer maintain his composed face. From the beginning, he was also beaten until he bled. Park Han-joon stared at him, his face filled with killing intent, telling him to guess what his next attack would be and from where. No matter the game, no matter the battle, for Kim Cheol-soo, they were all easy because he could see all the next moves of his opponents. Perhaps it was also for that reason that people always had to look up to him. He liked those looks of admiration. However, there was still one thing that even Kim Cheol-soo himself could not overcome. The power of money and absolute authority. Sometimes when he watched the news, he always saw an undeniable truth. No matter how evil and unreasonable people were, as long as they had money, everything would be resolved smoothly. Instead of feeling indignant about it, Kim Cheol-soo felt envious and wanted to be among them. Fortunately, at that time, an opportunity came to him. He created Nexus with the goal of getting closer to them. If anyone asked him if he felt guilty, the answer was no. In this world for money and power, people were willing to trample on each other, even kill each other, to get money, power, and to stand above others. They would do anything, no matter the means. Kim Cheol-soo had tried like crazy. And just a little more, he was very close to that position. But now he saw that Park Han-joon guy there. And Kim Cheol-soo. He didn't understand why he felt happy in this situation. He covered his face and laughed like a madman. His plans had been completely ruined by Park Han-joon, but he felt happy, although he himself couldn't understand why Park Han-joon was acting this way. The atmosphere around Kim Cheol-soo also began to change. He rushed forward to counterattack. From now on, he would no longer just take the hits, because he could see the attacks of Park Han-joon more and more clearly, and all the openings on his body. Kim Cheol-soo swung his leg and kicked Park Han-joon in the chest, then gave him an uppercut from below. Kim Cheol-soo was as if he'd been injected with adrenaline. His fighting spirit soared. The Nexus members on the sidelines cheered joyfully. Lim Yujin knew it was too early to celebrate. Park Han-joon and Kim Cheol-soo, both fighting with their entire beings, had proven one thing: their opponent was truly strong. At this very moment, neither of the two had a clear advantage. Only when one of them falls would they know who won and who lost. In this fight, Park Han-joon and Kim Cheol-soo were still fighting like madmen. Even though Kim Cheol-soo could see all the moves, he was still taking a beating. Park Han-joon was driving him so mad, he wanted to unleash all of his strength. Both of them poured all their hatred into their blows. Their battle was like a fight between two wild beasts. As they were intensely fighting, someone suddenly intervened. Rian arrived with a black umbrella and told Kim Cheol-soo to stop, to not fight anymore. Kim Cheol-soo told him to get out of the way. He thought that winning would solve everything. Rian approached him and told Kim Cheol-soo that he had lost from the very beginning when he started this fight. Park Han-joon grabbed Rian's shoulder and asked who he was. He told him to get lost if he didn't want to die. Kim Cheol-soo grabbed Park Han-joon's wrist. He gritted his teeth and announced that from this moment on, Nexus was disbanded. Everyone there was shocked. Oh Joon-gu stepped forward to question Kim Cheol-soo, asking how he dared to do that. Who gave him the right to end it just like that? Rian, holding the umbrella, smirked. He turned to Oh Joon-gu and asked, "Haven't you had enough yet? Nexus has been disbanded. The revenge should be over now, shouldn't it?" Oh Joon-gu gritted his teeth, furious but unable to do anything. Kim Cheol-soo gritted his teeth and said to Rian, "There won't be a second chance." But Rian paid no mind to Kim Cheol-soo's words. He told him to think carefully about what he could do in this situation. Who knows? You might shatter all the opportunities you've built until now. With that, Rian left, leaving Kim Cheol-soo standing bitterly in the rain. He realized he was wrong, and in desperation, he knelt before Park Han-joon and admitted defeat. Oh Joon-gu's group were all stunned, unable to believe it. Oh Joon-gu went berserk, telling Kim Cheol-soo to get up. He aggressively rushed forward and grabbed Kim Cheol-soo by the collar, asking him what the hell he was doing. After all the damn things he had done up until today, how could he just say, "I give up," and act like nothing happened? Oh Joon-gu yelled, as if slapping Kim Cheol-soo with his words. He pushed him to the ground and punched him, telling him to keep fighting. He should be kneeling before them, not anyone else. However, no matter how much Oh Joon-gu hit him, Kim Cheol-soo showed no reaction. The atmosphere fell into a heavy silence. Everyone was exhausted. Nexus and Kim Cheol-soo had given up just like that, as if they were trying to appease the anger of Park Han-joon's group. However, they didn't want this matter to end so easily. Park Han-joon's group returned to their headquarters. No one seemed to be in high spirits. Oh Joon-gu was the same. He knew that Nexus's short selling was backed by another organization. But until now, he couldn't get a single piece of information about what that organization does. This wasn't a glorious victory. Oh Joon-gu said he would definitely find out who that organization is, and their battle would have to start again someday. They returned to their normal daily lives for a while, so long that they started to wonder when the fight with Nexus had even happened. This feeling of boredom and frustration lasted for a month. At a certain convenience store, a girl urged her friend, the clerk, to hurry up and confess to the person he likes. This clerk had a scruffy appearance, unshaven stubble on his face, and Coke bottle glasses. The person he liked was none other than Choi Seo-hyun. Just then, she also walked into the convenience store to buy something. The clerk was so anxious he started to sweat. He covered his face, trying to calm himself. He had studied hard for this very moment. Choi Seo-hyun bought the same item at the same time every day. He had seen this on YouTube. Choi Seo-hyun is clearly also. He must have been interested in her to act like that. When ringing up Choi Seo-hyun's items, he stuttered and handed her a kimbap roll, saying it goes well with instant noodles, so it was a gift for her. Choi Seo-hyun glanced at the kimbap roll, then back at him. The young man saw her gaze, as if she were looking at a loser. He got flustered, sweat dripping down his face. Choi Seo-hyun politely accepted it and smiled at him, saying, "Thank you." She just smiled, but to the cashier, it was as if he saw a house and kids. He then slammed the table, about to say something else, when suddenly, a bunch of motorcycles stopped outside the store. A fat guy burst in aggressively and urged Choi Seo-hyun, "Hurry up." Choi Seo-hyun, annoyed, talked back. The two argued back and forth loudly. The cashier froze on the spot. A series of speculations ran through his mind. Could it be that his princess was in some kind of difficult situation, like being threatened by gangsters, for instance? The fat guy snatched the kimbap roll from Choi Seo-yun and stuffed it in his mouth. He told Choi Seo-yun to hurry up and eat her noodles. Everyone's waiting. After this series of actions, the cashier was dead sure the fat guy was a bad person. Choi Seo-yun clicked her tongue in annoyance. She asked the cashier if there was a back door. The cashier seized the opportunity to be the hero, saving the damsel in distress. Pointing to a door in the corner, he told her to open it and go out, and she would find the building's back exit. Choi Seo-yun said, "Thank you," and left. The cashier pushed up his glasses, pointed mysteriously, and said, "May you be safe." As Choi Seo-yun left, she wondered to herself, is there something wrong with that cashier? After Choi Seo-yun left, the cashier closed the store and went to pick a fight with the fat guy because he had stolen his kimbap roll. Nam In-soo was eating barbecue when he heard Choi Seo-yun had been kidnapped and panicked, but someone else was faster, getting up and leaving immediately. Meanwhile, the fat guy struck first, punching the cashier in the head, but the young man was completely unfazed. He swung his leg and kicked the fat guy in the face, knocking him down. The cashier wasn't what he seemed. He had taken down all of the fat guy's crew. They say when you're in love, who can ever stay rational? And for love, the cashier did something like this. The fat guy was beaten to the ground, looking at the cashier who was pondering life. His face darkened. He had no idea where this monster came from. Maybe he was one of the recently emerging talents. Nexus had disappeared. In most schools across the country, there was no longer any sign of its members. Like a forest without its tiger, the disappearance of Nexus created an opportunity for other predators to rise. They began to bare their fangs and claws. Then new organizations and even powerful individuals living in seclusion began to emerge. People called it the second disaster. While the cashier was lost in thought, Kim Jong-un ran up and, without a second look, directly attacked the cashier. Thinking Kim Jong-un was the boss of the bad guys, he thought of his crush, being bullied, and got a rush of adrenaline. He yelled, "Love is power." The fat guy warned Kim Jong-un that the cashier knew how to fight. The two exchanged a few blows. Kim Jong-un realized the cashier was very strong. Although many strong guys had appeared recently, he wondered just how strong this cashier was. The cashier switched to serious mode. He took off his glasses and got into a fighting stance. He knew he would eventually meet a strong opponent in Korea, so he had to fight properly. The cashier rushed forward to attack Kim Jong-un. He was very fast, his movements decisive, forcing Kim Jong-un to back away. The cashier lunged forward to finish him. Kim Jong-un also fought back fiercely. As the two were in the heat of battle, Choi Seo-yun yelled, "Stop!" After hearing the explanation, the cashier hurriedly bowed and apologized to them for suddenly fighting. Choi Seo-yun sighed helplessly. She couldn't deal with this bunch. Why couldn't you just talk to each other? Choi Seo-yun turned, slapped the fat guy, and yelled. She was sure he was the one who caused the misunderstanding. Barging into someone's store so aggressively would obviously make people suspicious. He deserved to be beaten up. The cashier kept bowing and apologizing to Kim Jong-un's group until they left. He bowed with tears streaming down his face. He felt pain, a deep pain, not for being kicked earlier, but the pain of separation. He thought he would never see Choi Seo-yun again. He had fallen in love with her. Kim Jong-un's group never thought that the fate between them and the cashier would continue. None of them could have known at that time. Ha Junga barged into the classroom and woke Park Han-jun up. He told him he'd found those bastards. "Get up, it's time to work." Everyone gathered again in Ha Junga's office. Once again, there was a group backing Nexus. If they could hit that group, Kim Kyeol-soo would also be forced to show himself. Easier said than done. The biggest problem now is money. They need both power and money to win. The ones behind Kim Kyeol-soo are the second son, Nam Ryan, and the eldest son, Lee Dong-go. They are the fourth-generation chaebols of the Seolsan group. Choi Seo-yun was also surprised to hear that name. The Seolsan group are the people who own almost everything in the world. What could they possibly want that made them create Nexus? Just to earn some spare change? What their exact goal is, Ha Jung-gu doesn't know either. But one thing is clear. Nexus's purpose wasn't just about money. If their opponent is the Seolsan group, it will be a tough fight, so they need to prepare thoroughly. Somewhere, a group of rich kids were discussing plans in a luxurious, dark room. Eldest son, Lee Dong-go, declared, We will become the apex of this country in the most literal sense. They were just doing what their fathers and mothers had done before them. One shouldn't make enemies. But unfortunately, Lee Dong-go made a mistake. He gave his stupid little brother, Ryan, a chance, and he shattered the image their family had built. Despite being a troublemaker, Ryan was still Lee Dong-go's brother. He bowed and apologized to the other rich kids in the room. The others burst out laughing. A blonde young man and a blonde girl taunted the two brothers. No matter what they did, they were destined to be the heirs anyway. Ryan stood there, fuming with veins popping on his face, but he had to endure it. The blonde young man crossed his legs. He remarked that Ryan lacked the charisma of a leader. That's why you can't stand above the ignorant masses and become great. It would be better to let me do it. The blonde girl disagreed upon hearing that. She wanted to be the one to do it. Lee Dong-go, who had been silent in the room, finally spoke up. His glasses glinted like Conan's, looking very mysterious. He knew from the beginning that Nexus would eventually fall apart. Now is the time to prepare that. After hearing that, everyone else in the room knew what that was, because they needed to establish their rankings before becoming adults. So this would be a personal battle. Whoever has money and fists will become the leader, holding everything in their hands. This time, it will be the decisive battle. At the Hwanhee Juvenile Detention Center, Jang Kyubin was finally released. He was released, and other prisoners followed to congratulate him. For someone like Jang Kyubin to be released, that's just playing dirty. Jang Kyubin flew into a rage, reaching through the mesh, and grabbed a prisoner's collar. He lifted him up and repeatedly slammed him against the iron frame, leaving the prisoner's face covered in blood. Jang Kyubin threw the prisoner down, tore off his inmate number, and walked away. The other inmates cheered wildly, treating Jang Kyubin like a youth idol. After walking out the gate, he took a deep breath of fresh air. Someone was already waiting for him outside. It was the blonde girl from the room earlier. The heiress of Jovolium Company, Lim Sang-ae, Jang Kyubin, got into Lim Sang-ae's car. She asked him to create an organization to replace Nexus. Jang Kyubin looked at the documents and asked her, why is the first target Park Han-jun? He doesn't have any power. Lim Sang-ae rested her chin on her hand and explained, everyone says Park Han-jun is the second disaster. Schools everywhere are becoming more chaotic. There are people who want to take the empty seats in Nexus. This has led to a war between new organizations. Lim Sang-ae didn't think that creating an organization while fighting other organizations was a good idea. It would be too time-consuming. So the fastest way to build an organization is to defeat the one who caused this chaos. The one who destroyed the fence called Nexus, Park Han-jun. If a stronger person appears, they can easily resolve the situation. Lim Sang-ae snapped her fingers in agreement. She told Jang Kyubin that she had already prepared the stage for him. Do whatever you want. I'll back you up. Yes, Jang Kyubin agreed. But first, he had something to take care of. In a house in the slums, a loud argument broke out, and Lee Dong-hwa kicked the door open and stormed out. As soon as he came out, he saw Jang Kyubin standing outside. Lee Dong-hwa was also stunned that Jang Kyubin was out of prison. He emotionally hugged Jang Kyubin tightly. The two found a place to talk. Jang Kyubin asked him why he was still here. Do you still feel guilty toward that family? Lee Dong-hwa looked down and said he didn't feel guilty, but there wasn't a hint of truth in his words. Jang Kyubin took a bag from his shoulder and threw it down in front of Lee Dong-hwa. Inside was a pile of cash. He told him to take the money and settle things, then leave that broken family. I will be your family. A few years ago, Lee Dong-hwa and Jang Kyubin lived together in this rundown, dilapidated area. They were like two dirty rats at the bottom of society, stealing every day just to have something to eat. Then one day, while running, Lee Dong-hwa accidentally slipped and fell. Jang Kyubin ran off with the bag, while Lee Dong-hwa was caught by them. He begged them for his life, saying he didn't take anything. He didn't take anything. But how could the man let him go? He beat and stomped on him relentlessly, forcing him to confess. Where Jang Kyubin was with his bag, Lee Dong-hwa was beaten to a pulp. He looked towards where Jang Kyubin was hiding and signaled for him not to worry. Lee Dong-hwa was beaten and one of his eyes was injured. Jang Kyubin was extremely regretful. He gritted his teeth, tears falling. He promised to become Lee Dong-hwa's family. He would take responsibility. Their friendship has been that strong and steadfast. Even now, Jang Kyubin has not forgotten. Ha Jung-gu was still buried in his room, analyzing information. He thought that besides Lee Dong-go and Ryan, there would be many more rich kids involved. He talked for a while, and seeing that Park Han-jun was still silent, he looked up and asked, "What's wrong?" Park Han-jun asked him if in last month's fight, if he had continued to fight Kim Ki-ol-soo, could he have one? Ha Jung-gu asked why he was suddenly asking that. "You always win." Park Han-jun sadly said, "It's true that I always win, but in last month's fight, I wasn't sure I would win. If Kim Ki-ol-soo had prepared more, I might have lost." Ha Jung-gu took off his glasses and cut him off, telling him not to say such weak things. "We need a more guaranteed method." On Kim Ki-ol-soo's side, he also asked Ryan a similar question. If Ryan hadn't stopped him that day, could he have beaten Park Han-jun? Ryan was asked a difficult question. He adjusted his glasses and said he didn't know for sure. "It depends, but this time we must win. There are no more chances." Kim Ki-ol-soo's eyes were full of determination. In an alley, a group of thugs was being chased for their lives. They couldn't believe Jang Kyubin was here. He should be doing time in prison. Despite running for their lives, they couldn't escape. Jang Kyubin blocked the front, and Lee Donghwa chased from behind. They were cornered with no way out. The thug had no choice but to kneel and apologize to Jang Kyubin, begging for forgiveness. Jang Kyubin kicked a brick over to the thug, telling him to show him that from now until the end of his life, he would live in hiding like a dog. The thug decisively picked up the brick and smashed his own hand with it. After finishing their business, Jang Kyubin and Lee Donghwa returned. Lim Sang-ae was already waiting for them. She reminded Jang Kyubin, "Don't cause trouble before we've even started. Don't try to show that you're shallow and uneducated. You're a person, not a chess piece. Why can't you understand?" Jang Kyubin said he wasn't causing trouble. "This is my business. He and I have to deal with it." Jang Kyubin asked Lim Sang-ae, "Don't you have any more money?" He had already used all the money she gave him to take care of the kids. "It's very difficult to live on that small amount of money." Lim Sang-ae scoffed, telling Jang Kyubin he was so shallow. Her assistant threw 2 more bags of money on the ground. Lim Sang-ae said she could give Jang Kyubin as much money as he wanted, but from now on, he must obey her completely. And if he acts on his own, without her permission one more time, he'd better watch out. Jang Kyubin picked up the money and cheerfully agreed. Meanwhile, Jun-gu was still hard at work at his desk. He had discovered 2 more unusual locations. One was around Myeongdong. That place used to have many brawls for power, but it had suddenly become unusually quiet. And over in Gangseong-gu, the schools around there, which were never close, had now started forming an alliance. This all happened when those 2 strong individuals appeared. Choi Seo-hyun flipped through the documents. One came from a juvenile detention center, and the other was a transfer student. Their personal records weren't great either. Suddenly, Choi Seo-hyun flipped to the file of the sales clerk. Last time, she said she would investigate the Gangseong-gu area. The sales clerk was currently moping in his store. After fighting with Kim Dong-hyun, his goddess hadn't returned. He thought Choi Seo-hyun didn't like violent people like him. The sales clerk looked at his fist, then placed it on his chest. He felt his fragile heart breaking into pieces. Suddenly, the door chime rang as a customer opened the door and entered. He turned to look, and his eyes lit up, because his goddess had arrived. Choi Seo-hyun stormed in aggressively, slamming her hand on the counter in front of him. She read out his full name, Choi Young-hyun, 19 years old. As soon as Nexus disappeared, you transferred from Thailand back to Korea. Just a few days after transferring, you took over all the schools in the Gangseong-gu district. Choi Seo-hyun seriously asked the sales clerk who he really was. Choi Young-hyun trembled, breaking out in a cold sweat. He stammered an explanation. He didn't know anything about taking over schools or anything like that. Ever since I returned to Korea, I've just been staying here and wandering around. Choi Young-hyun tried to explain to save the situation, but Choi Seo-hyun didn't believe him. She demanded that he tell the truth. As the 2 were talking, suddenly, someone threw an air conditioner's outdoor unit inside from the outside. The glass door shattered. Outside was the Gangseong-gu Alliance, come to settle a score with Choi Young-hyun. Choi Young-hyun shielded Choi Seo-hyun from the flying glass. He took off his glasses, his expression turning serious. He told her, "Go boil some water and eat some ramen. I'll deal with them and be back before the noodles get soggy." Choi Young-hyun went outside to fight the Gangseogu Alliance. Even though they used iron pipes to fight, Choi Young-hyun was still out of their league in every way. It only took him 3 minutes to take down the entire alliance. Choi Seo-hyun asked him who he really was. With sweat pouring down his face, Choi Young-hyun confessed that he was a model student. He lived in Thailand because his father worked there, and he had only recently returned to Korea. However, not long after returning, he was hazed by the older students at his school, a classic case of new student bullying. At first, he didn't want to fight them, but those jerks kept finding ways to bully him continuously. So he was forced to fight them to settle things once and for all. When he was in Thailand, Choi Young-hyun had learned Muay Thai from an employee at his father's company. So you could say he knew how to fight a little. And that's where the real problem started. Choi Young-hyun held his head in crisis. Starting from that fight with those guys, he started getting dragged into other strange fights. They spread rumors that he was very strong. Kids from surrounding schools kept seeking him out for a one-on-one fight. It got to the point where he didn't know what else to do. The more he fought, the more he couldn't escape. If it was just fighting, it would be one thing, but they kept giving Choi Young-hyun all sorts of nicknames. Weird ones like Mad Dog from Hell, the retaliatory kick of Gangseogu, and natural anesthesia, the fist that awakens consciousness. And so, he ended up defeating all the thugs in the area, including the top dogs from the surrounding schools. It was like he was competing to bring home a trophy. The incident where he fought the fat guy the other day was similar. Choi Seo-hyun crossed her arms. How could she possibly believe all that? Choi Young-hyun threw a fit. He tried to explain that he didn't know anything either. It all just happened to him. He didn't understand it at all. Suddenly, the members of the Gangseogu Alliance he had just beaten up came before him, bowing to Choi Young-hyun and calling him boss. Choi Young-hyun jumped, sweat pouring down his face. Just a moment ago, they wanted to fight, and now they're calling him boss. It was just too weird. The leader of the Gangseogu Alliance sincerely explained. They wanted to fight him out of a man's instinct, but they actually really liked him. They wanted Choi Young-hyun to become the leader of the Gangseogu Alliance. Choi Young-hyun froze. He looked at the tough, scarred-faced man, calling him boss. The guy shouted that he was only 19 years old, but age doesn't matter. What was important was that they wanted to follow Choi Young-hyun. At this point, no matter how Choi Young-hyun tried to defend himself, it was no use. He started twitching, refusing to accept the title of boss. Choi Seo-hyun, watching from the side, burst out laughing. She thought Park Han-jun's group was the most foolish, but who knew there were people who looked even more foolish. She believed Choi Young-hyun wasn't a delinquent. Choi Seo-hyun held out her phone, offering him a chance to work with her. Choi Young-hyun, seeing his goddess wanting his number, immediately had his eyes light up. He solemnly got down on one knee, took Choi Seo-hyun's phone with both hands, and promised his lifelong loyalty. The Gangseogu Alliance, seeing their boss kneeling, also knelt, pledging their loyalty to Choi Seo-hyun. Choi Seo-hyun didn't know what to say to this situation, so she had no choice but to accept. At Park Han-jun's father's dojo, after he saw the last student off, Park Han-jun approached him. His father asked him what was wrong. Park Han-jun seriously told his father, "I want to become stronger." Park Han-jun's father seemed to have anticipated this, so he wasn't surprised at all. Kim Dong-hyun sat alone at school, thinking about his recent fights. When he fought Lee Mun-ju, the final result was a draw. It was the same when he fought Choi Young-hyun at the convenience store. If they had fought to the end, he wasn't sure he could have won. Kim Dong-hyun ground his teeth. He felt really frustrated. Suddenly, a cold can of drink was pressed against Kim Dong-hyun's face. Choi Seo-hyun asked him why he looked so tense. Kim Dong-hyun turned and saw a familiar face, Choi Young-hyun from the convenience store. After hearing the explanation, Kim Dong-hyun understood. From now on, Choi Young-hyun was Choi Seo-hyun's subordinate. Kim Dong-hyun whispered to Choi Seo-hyun, asking if this was okay, because he thought Choi Young-hyun was a weirdo. Choi Seo-hyun said it was fine, because Park Han-jun's group was just as crazy. Choi Young-hyun gritted his teeth and apologized to Kim Dong-hyun again for what happened before. He asked if he had ever learned any martial arts. Kim Dong-hyun said he had never learned any. Choi Young-hyun was surprised. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. He had a feeling that Kim Dong-hyun hadn't been trained, but his fighting ability was no joke. He concluded that Kim Dong-hyun was a genius. Kim Dong-hyun scoffed. Me a genius? Come on. Choi Young-hyun understood his gaze. Although your fighting spirit is full, your eyes show you've nearly reached your limit. He asked if he wanted to learn from his master. Choi Young-hyun led the two of them to a company. His master had come to Korea because of his father's work. This mango trading company belonged to Choi Young-hyun's father. Choi Seo-hyun asked him, "Why work a part-time job when you're so rich?" He said he wanted to become rich like his father, so he had to work his butt off too. As they were walking around, suddenly a man started touching Kim Dong-hyun's leg. He jumped in surprise, asking, "What are you doing?" Seeing the man, Choi Young-hyun exclaimed, "Master." He was the Muay Thai legend, Cha Tae-sik, the former champion of the one-on-one fighting tournament, the second-generation champion. After touching Kim Dong-hyun's leg, he was moved to tears. He asked Kim Dong-hyun, "How on earth did you build legs like these?" Cha Tae-sik had already heard that Kim Dong-hyun wanted to become stronger, but just seeing his legs, he was fired up with enthusiasm. He told him that with his will, combined with his guidance, he would definitely become ridiculously strong. Cha Tae-sik extended his hand, asking Kim Dong-hyun if he wanted to learn from him. Kim Dong-hyun was silent for a moment. Then he sincerely bowed to accept him as his master. Cha Tae-sik was satisfied. Elsewhere, Park Han-joon was also training hard, repeatedly punching a sandbag. His father stood beside him. He patted his shoulder and asked, "You still want to get even stronger, even though you're already strong enough?" Park Han-joon remembered the bitter feeling of his fight with Kim Cheol-soo. He truly wanted to become stronger. Park Han-joon's father sighed. He didn't stop him. He knew his son had grown up, and he believed he had his reasons for being so determined. Park Han-joon's father asked him to promise him two things. First, no matter the circumstances, no matter your feelings, you must never use violence against someone who has lost the will to fight. That is the responsibility of the strong. Second, what we call fighting. The ancients have recorded the most effective ways to generate power. These methods help them subdue their opponents, and those records, they have been accumulated and compared over thousands of years. Humanity has figured out the near-perfect movements. This means that learning martial arts is the act of familiarizing our bodies with humanity's heritage. Therefore, you must not use the heritage that humanity has left behind for improper purposes. Park Han-joon's father demonstrated for him. He balanced himself and punched the sandbag. The sandbag ripped and sand flew everywhere. Now, Park Han-joon agreed to his father's promise. Somewhere else, Jang Kyubin looked at a news article about Nam In-soo. He was eager to meet him again. Jang Kyubin asked Lim Sang-ae if they would start with Nam In-soo. Lim Sang-ae sipped her tea. She disagreed. She wanted to deal with Park Han-joon first. Jang Kyubin wanted to start with Nam In-soo. After all, Park Han-joon and Nam In-soo were on the same side. Besides, he had a personal grudge against Nam In-soo, so he wanted to deal with him quickly. Lim Sang-ae scoffed and then agreed. She said if he couldn't take down Nam In-soo, he wouldn't stand a chance against Park Han-joon. Jang Kyubin finished his tea and stood up. He promised he could get the job done. Night fell. Jang Kyubin's gang gathered their forces, preparing to advance on Incheon. Their actions were being watched by someone. That person pulled out a phone and called the privileged blonde kid, Park Ji-ho, to report the situation. Park Ji-ho turned to the thugs he had hired. They also got ready for action. The men under Park Ji-ho included Nam Hyun, a national shot put athlete, Kim Kyung-tae, a national javelin thrower, and Park Chan-yeol, a national 100-meter sprinter. Jang Kyubin's gang stormed Nam In-soo's territory in Incheon, causing destruction. As soon as it started, they attacked aggressively. The fat guy also had to come out to fight. He told the others to go get Nam In-soo. Lee Donghwa asked Jang Kyubin why he was attacking Incheon first. Jang Kyubin explained that a few years ago, he had an accident and went missing. At that time, he came to Incheon, and this was his hiding place for a rather long time. Nam In-soo's crew let him hide here, although they fought countless times. Jang Kyubin gradually grew closer to the people here. When there were turf wars in Incheon, Jang Kyubin also fought alongside them. He thought this place was his family, until those bastards showed up. And then, they treated Jang Kyubin like an outsider. He has held a grudge ever since. Nam In-soo, after receiving the news, sped down the road on his motorcycle like he was flying. Nam In-soo had once considered Jang Kyubin as real family. But then an incident occurred Jang Cuban was suspected of stealing the money the whole group had saved up. Jang Cuban, of course, denied it, but his resistance was fierce. He had brutally beaten a member of the group who had suspected him. The others tried to stop Jang Cuban, but just then, Nam In-soo's older brother walked in. He beat Jang Cuban to a pulp. Nam In-soo's brother was furious, not because he suspected Jang Cuban of stealing the money, but because Jang Cuban had disobeyed him. Family members are supposed to protect and look after one another. He warned, if Jang Cuban acted like that again, he should just get lost and go home. Jang Cuban had an incredibly high ego. He couldn't bear this humiliation. He stormed off and never came back. Back in the present, the two sides were still fighting fiercely. Nam In-soo had just arrived on the scene. He drove his vehicle straight into the fray and got out to face Jang Cuban. Seeing Jang Cuban, Nam In-soo immediately admitted his past mistake. After Jang Cuban left, many terrible things had happened. The scoundrel Jang Cuban had beaten back, then turned out to be the real thief. Nam In-soo said he had wanted to apologize to Jang Cuban back then, but he couldn't get in touch with him. So, he was apologizing to him now. But for Jang Cuban, an apology now was no longer important. He didn't want to reconcile. Back then, he had been humiliated and driven away. How could it be so easily resolved with just words? Jang Cuban attacked directly. Nam In-soo raised a hand to block and countered. He said that back then, Jang Cuban wasn't kicked out for stealing money, but for daring to lay a hand on family. Whatever the reason, Jang Cuban wouldn't listen, insisting that Nam In-soo's group had used him. Nam In-soo threw a punch. Jang Cuban whipped out a wire, tightening it around Nam In-soo's wrist and drawing blood. 4. Park Ji-ho is with Park Ji-min in a dark slum. Park Ji-min asks if they can go ahead and attack Park Han-joon right away. Park Ji-ho says not yet. They will deal with Park Han-joon, but not right now. If they take this opportunity to cooperate with Lim Sang-ae, it will be easier to handle everything. In Incheon, Nam In-soo and Jang Cuban are still fighting. Jang Cuban pulls the wire, yanking Nam In-soo's wrist closer and punches him in the face. Nam In-soo's movements are severely restricted by the wire on his wrist. Every time he moves, the wire cuts into his flesh like a hunter's trap. Seeing Jang Cuban charge again, Nam In-soo decides to ignore the flesh being torn by the wire. Nam In-soo pulls on the wire. He swings his free hand to punch Jang Cuban, but he dodges it. He had calculated this from the start. Since Nam In-soo's right hand was completely powerless to fight, he had tied up his left hand. Jang Cuban lunges forward again, punching Nam In-soo in the face. Nam In-soo notices that Jang Cuban's fighting stance is very strange. He's already aiming for the finishing blow. This telegraphed his next move. Nam In-soo grips the wire tightly. He tries to counter, but Jang Cuban swiftly dodges, pulling the wire and ducking between Nam In-soo's legs. The wire pulls Nam In-soo along, twisting his body into an awkward position. He coughs up blood. Jang Cuban becomes even more ruthless. He still holds a grudge from the past. To him, the word family is horrific. Every time his family members looked at him, it was when he was about to be beaten. His family were the ones who abandoned him, the ones who wished he would disappear forever. Whenever he saw a happy family on TV, Jang Cuban would think of his own. The people in Incheon were just the same to him. He thought Nam In-soo's group was just pretending to be a supportive family. He wanted to tear that family to shreds. The people in Incheon gave him hope, then abandoned him. The day they treated him like a thief caused him immense pain. He wished they would all just die. Jang Cuban returned to his own home, only to be met by his bastard of father. Unable to bear it any longer, Jang Cuban grabbed an ashtray and assaulted him. Nam In-soo headbutts Jang Cuban. He apologizes to him once again. He admits they were wrong back then, but now that Jang Cuban has laid a hand on his family, he will not spare him. Nam In-soo pulls Jang Cuban closer, loosening the tension of the wire on his hand. Jang Cuban, however, tries to maintain distance, but he can't. Nam In-soo grabs his head and slams it down. Jang Cuban is hit repeatedly, blood pouring from his nose and mouth. Jang Cuban breaks away to create distance, but Nam In-soo holds the wire, rushes forward, and knees him square in the face. Jang Cuban can't believe how strong Nam In-soo has become. He's much stronger than before. Jang Cuban composes himself. He cannot lose. If he loses, what's the point of living? Using all his strength, he tackles Nam Insu, pushing him backwards, and both of them fall off the edge. Nam Insu manages to grab onto a rock. He holds the wire tightly, keeping Jang Kyubin from falling. Jang Kyubin tells him to let go, but he refuses. Jang Kyubin struggles, demanding to be released. He doesn't need Nam Insu to save him. He would rather die. Nam Insu screams Jang Kyubin's name. He tries to pull him up. He uses every ounce of his strength to pull him. He tells him to live if he wants revenge. As Jang Kyubin is about to reply, he sees Nam Insu's blood dripping on his face. The wire begins to snap. Jang Kyubin silently resigns himself to his fate and falls into the sea below. Nam Insu screams his name. Jang Kyubin sinks deeper and deeper. He thinks his life has been a dog's life. To think he would die such a miserable death. As Jang Kyubin is about to close his eyes, he sees Nam Insu diving in after him, straining to save him. Nam Insu brings Jang Kyubin to shore. While he's distracted, Lee Donghua hits him from behind with an iron pipe. Nam Insu is knocked unconscious. Jang Kyubin is shocked. He looks behind him and sees Park Ji-ho and Park Ji-min. Confused, he turns and asks Lee Donghua what this is about. Lee Donghua gives him a cold look. Why would he entrust his life to someone like Jang Kyubin? He had to decide his own life. Jang Kyubin feels a chilling despair. He screams bitterly, asking Lee Donghua why he betrayed him. He clings to the hope that Lee Donghua was threatened, but Lee Donghua shatters his hope. He says he just wants to make money. There was no threat. The other men gather around. Jang Kyubin laughs in despair. He knew it. Lee Donghua was willing to sell out his own family for a paltry sum of money. Lee Donghua hates the word family the most. He resolutely brings the iron pipe down on Jang Kyubin's head. He calls Jang Kyubin useless and walks away. Meanwhile, on Lim Sing-a's side, her assistant comes in to report. Lee Donghua and the others have betrayed them. Lim Sing-a remains calm. She had already heard the news. She'd been too short-sighted. The lower a person's station, the more likely they are to betray and backstab to climb higher. Lim Sang-a tells her assistant to look at the fish tank. She has never fed the fish in this tank, but they still look very healthy. That's because even though they are the same species, they don't form alliances or feuds. They eat each other to survive. Humans are the same. Lim Sang-a has had an epiphany. From now on, to win, there's no need to distinguish between allies and enemies. There's no point. Whatever you receive, you just have to return it many times over. Park Ji-ho's group returns and holds a small party to celebrate their victory. Lee Donghua tells him to quickly make a plan to capture Park Han-jun and form an organization. Park Ji-ho scoffs, complimenting Lee Donghua on his professionalism. But the target now is to take down Hyo Jun-gu first. Without Hyo Jun-gu's money, Park Han-jun is just another common thug. Park Ji-ho pours a drink. He knows that everything Hyo Jun-gu does is to build his reputation for the purpose of making money. Hyo Jun-gu's company is just a startup. It's nothing compared to Park Ji-ho. Park Ji-ho is the eldest son of the KSK Entertainment Group. Meanwhile, Hyo Jun-gu is frantic. The other party has suddenly decided to refuse all goods distributed from Hyo Jun-gu's company. His assistant reports that at this rate they could lose tens of billions of won a day. Hyo Jun-gu asks if they gave a reason. The assistant says it's unclear. There are various reasons, but it's mostly due to Hyo Jun-gu's rivals' machinations. If they don't pay the 50 billion won in taxes by tomorrow, many problems will arise in production. Hyo Jun-gu realizes those silver spoon bastards want to start by taking him down. He asks his assistant if he has looked into any avenues in the financial sector. The assistant says he has searched everywhere, but even the private loan market is refusing to deal with them. Hyo Jun-gu thinks to himself that he was too careless. He tries to think of a solution. Suddenly, Lim Sang-a approaches and says she'll lend Hyo Jun-gu the money to get by. On Park Ji-ho's side, they are gloating. He was the one who interfered with the distribution of Hyo Jun-gu's goods. He thinks Hyo Jun-gu is finished, so he turns his attention to Park Han-jun. Suddenly, Park Ji-ho gets a notification. He opens it and sees a video of himself beating up an actress in a bar. Park Ji-ho's face darkens as he wonders which bastard sent this to him. The only person he can think of is Lim Sang-a. Speak of the devil. Lim Sang-a is calling. Park Ji-ho grits his teeth, answers the phone, and asks what she wants. Lim Sang cheerfully asks if he's seen the video. She says she went to great lengths to pick the nastiest video to send him. From the videos of his company's illegal hostess parties to actresses drinking and causing mayhem. Park Ji-ho's personal life is a complete mess, utterly debauched. Park Ji-ho asks what she wants. Lim Sang smirks, her goal achieved. She asks to meet in person. That evening, they meet at a construction site. As soon as they meet, Park Ji-ho threatens her. Are you looking to die? Lim Sang is unfazed. Today, she called him here to give him a gift. Hyo Jun-gu steps out of the shadows and greets Park Ji-ho. In an instant, he realizes that Lim Sang and Hyo Jun-gu have teamed up against him. Hyo Jun-gu says he wanted to call Park Ji-ho here to negotiate. To be honest, he says, I don't want an all-out war with you, Park Ji-ho. If we fight to the bitter end, the only ones who benefit are the bastards on the sidelines. Park Ji-ho realizes Hyo Jun-gu is talking about Lee Jong-ho. He asks, so what? Hyo Jun-gu proposes they stop fighting. Instead, let's settle this quickly and cleanly. A test of strength, and strength alone. The loser just quietly disappears. Park Ji-ho's expression hardens. He asks, do you really think this can be settled by strength alone? Hyo Jun-gu, full of confidence, provokes him to accept. Provoked, Park Ji-ho recklessly accepts. They agree to meet in 3 days at Jamsil Stadium. Bring as many people as you want. Winner takes all. After returning to their headquarters, Lim Sang asks Hyo Jun-gu why he's so confident. The reason Park Ji-ho's crew wants to form an organization is for complete control. If Hyo Jun-gu were to lose this fight, he could lose everything. Hyo Jun-gu knows that, but he'll give it his all, no matter what. However, even if Park Ji-ho brings an entire army, if they haven't reached the level of Kim Cheol-soo, they're no match for Park Han-jun. An agitated Choi Seo-hyun rushes in to announce that Park Han-jun has disappeared. Hyo Jun-gu is a little surprised, but he remembers what Park Han-jun asked him before. He tells Choi Seo-hyun to wait here. He'll find him. There's still 3 days, which is enough time. Choi Seo-hyun asks, and if you can't find him? Kim Dong-hyun rushes in, saying to stick to the plan. He's confident he won't lose. Hyo Jun-gu says that's not an option. Without Park Han-jun, and with Nam In-soo injured, Kim Dong-hyun can't carry the team alone. Kim Dong-hyun says they can ask that person. The person he's referring to is Choi Jong-hyun. Of course, at Choi Seo-hyun's request, Choi Jong-hyun throws the sheet.